Let's go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Freshly Awoken podcast number 11. We're in double digits, guys.
Number 11. Wow.
Digits.
Moving quick.
Yeah. We're here to talk about social skills tonight, joined by 5 other lovely people. First of all, the co-host, Mr. Woke TV. How you going this week, Woke?
I'm doing great, Fresh. Thanks for introing me. Yeah, you guys all know who I am, Mr. Woke TV. I stream on Twitch, although I haven't been streaming much over the last couple of weeks.
That's true.
However, I have negotiated with work, and I've locked down actually a stream schedule. Not starting this week, but starting next week, and I'll 100% be streaming Monday nights and Wednesday nights, guaranteed.
That's good.
Plus the podcast, obviously, every second week with all of you lovely people. So that's pretty cool. You guys know me pretty well, but yeah, I love streaming. I work in hospitality, and yeah, we're bringing back beer reviews. So I have a beer to intro today. It's 4 Seasons Lager by Rocky Ridge.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Fly As to Woke's right of screen. How you doing, Fly
Hello.
As?
I'm doing great, mate. I've got the Moke Blonde.
What's it? The Moke Blonde?
The Moke Blonde. It's like a
Surely you say that like mocky.
Mocky?
No.
That sounds better.
You're a little bit
Well,
of a
no,
mocky
I
blonde.
thought it was Mocky, but then some Belgian person like 2 days ago called me an idiot. So now I'm here.
Cool.
Nice. Louis, how you doing, mate?
Nice. I'm doing excellent. I actually have a beer this time, not a whiskey that someone gave me. Just your classic Heineken, nothing too serious.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Enjoy it.
And you stream, don't you, Louis?
Yes, I do. I'm trying to get into it, but I work at Nando's, so a lot of my time is all over the place. So I've never had a proper schedule, and it's probably after 12 midnight that I do start streaming. So no one ever sees it. But yeah, no, I'm a graphic designer for anyone and everything. So
That's sick.
Cool.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, his main.
Man,
what's your main graphic design job, Louis?
So I'm graphic designer for Twitch Melbourne and Twitch Brisbane. So I do all the posters for the community meetups and all that kind of stuff. And currently got the role of a content manager for a new organization that I'm a part of. So
Nice.
yes,
It's all happening.
Keeps
awesome.
that pretty
Yeah,
fun, you know.
still popping.
Very
Good. Another streamer underneath him, SpicyMayoh, sipping on the
Hello, hello.
whiskey.
Indeed. I've got a JB whiskey here. So my name is Spicy. I stream 3 days a week, just play like RPGs and stuff. And yeah, I work in IT support, and that's basically my week. The week was good, it was chill, and now I'm just cruising, finishing for the year. But yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. Cool.
Nice, thanks for being here, Spicy. Speaking of IT support, E-Girl Cat also works in IT support. She'll
Why
give
is
you an
that?
hour
Yeah.
free.
My,
Oh, no, not
my
free.
name's Kat. I don't stream much anymore. I work full time. Yeah, if you've got any tech problems, you know, feel free to hit me up. I'm with Louis. I'm drinking Heineken.
Oh, we got 2 Heinekens.
Classic.
Sorry, are you drinking Heineken in a Heineken glass?
Yeah, boy.
Wow,
that is
is
She's
impressive.
one up
How
to
did you
me.
tee
I've
that
only
up?
got the bottle.
Double
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
She
geez.
saw Louis and was like, that's it, I'm getting a glass. One of
And
those, mate.
yeah.
Need to
Pour it into
One
my
up.
protein shake.
One up, Louis.
And last but not least, we got the host, the big man himself.
Last but not least,
Fresh.
ladies and gentlemen, good day. I'm drinking
hello.
some just some Matzo's ginger beer today, in a glass with some ice, so it should be nice.
That's a big glass.
Yeah, it is a
Very
big
good
glass.
with-
Well, it
very
looks
good
bigger
with
than it
rum.
actually is, but
You put a shot of rum in there, that's the best drink you ever have.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, guys. So before we get into the introing the topic,
Right
just
from an
moving on.
alcoholic's mouth.
Yeah, right. Before I intro the topic,
Put a
let's,
shot of spirits in your beer.
for those of us that haven't already, which I think is just me, I'm just gonna crack my beer and yeah, we're doing a beer review.
oh, I
That
don't know
was
how went.
actually
That's all right.
very
Okay.
impressive.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the
Kinda
closest
worked.
we've been. Oh, I
But
can't
the-
open
Pog,
this.
Pog.
Okay,
Love
yes, good. All right.
Poggers, dude.
First things first, drink my beer. So the topic today, ladies and gentlemen, is social skills, and we wanted to talk a little bit around like how we socialize and how things that affect your socializing and stuff like that. This is something that's near and dear to Fresh's heart because he works in a school and he helps kids dealing with these issues all day, every day. Yeah, so just to get us into the thing, I thought I'd pose a question to everybody and see if anybody's got any thoughts on it. How does spending time online affect the way we socialize and treat other people? Anyone have anything to throw out there?
I think that as a culture overall, having the amount of online interaction that we have can be probably a net negative in terms of experience in real life socializing. And I think the biggest example for me was when I was younger, you'd have to go and like talk to people's parents often if you'd want to like you have to like go and, or even just calling on the phone, you have to call the home phone and be like, oh hey, Mr. and Mrs. Woke, how you doing? Is Matt there today? And like have that little awkward interaction with the parents, which is good for your social development. But now it's just like I'll just text Woke and be like, hey mate, come out the front and we'll play. So yeah.
So you think it's wait, sorry. So you were saying
Oh,
having that online there, it makes people not interact with people, because
I
it sounds
think-
like you're saying
yeah.
people still hang out, obviously, right?
Maybe less. I think just overall, it's a little bit of a negative. Obviously, there's huge benefits to online interaction. Like I've met so many more people playing video games than in real life, and that's a great thing.
Yeah.
You kind of stop that physical interaction by going and having friends because it's so easy to talk to them online that you don't actually go outside anymore. Like I can, instead of, going over to my friend's house and just playing, PlayStation 2 game, like split screen, we can just sit at home and play online over a Discord and not actually see each other. We can just talk to each other online.
Yeah.
I think
that removes the physical and kind of like,
I think that video games have played a big part in that like that removal of co-op, and it was all around like monetization of video games. They wanted everybody to buy their own copy, but like nowadays, especially in the gaming community, like everybody has their own copy, so they need their own system, and that forces people to like stay in and not go over to your mate's house and play co-op and stuff, because you've all got to have like your own system there to play games together and stuff like that, which is I think a net negative in terms of that. Hanging out.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's a hard one because it even goes to like the positive side as well. Like if you can look at it, like you make very, very fair points where we're completely removing that physical aspect of like making the physical effort of going to meet someone. But then you also have the benefit of like you get to meet a concentrated focus group in a sense of the people that you interact with on a daily basis. So people that you care about, you have similar interests. So like, for example, I met yourself and Fresh through streaming. Like I would have never spoken to Fresh when we met, because I had no idea like who he is, what he does. But then I was like, oh, we have a common interest in streaming and like putting ourselves out there and challenging ourselves. And that allowed us to build that community, build that bond.
Wait, didn't we meet randomly at a wedding?
Yeah, no, so the only reason like we went up because
Yeah,
my
true.
partner introduced me to you to say you're streaming, and I just started streaming as
Oh
well.
yeah, true.
And like, damn, like this guy's like where I want to be in a year's time.
Yeah.
So let's like talk about that and see like how did you get there? Like that was really good, but at the same time, if that was just over the internet or face to face, then that would completely reduce the possibility of me even talking to him.
Yeah, totally.
So it's good and bad, but it's cool.
Then we went and played some mini golf and had our little
true that,
mandate.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Woke,
And you
Che.
I think as well though, so like especially talking about Discord, which I mean all of us kind of participate in Discord communities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh really?
you've
What's
got-
Discord?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of it. That quite often, especially when you're playing video games together, it's still like a phone call. It's still
Yeah.
I think talking to someone, actually physically talking to them rather than just like typing in chat removes a lot of the negative side effects of like just having relationships online. Because like, for example, like you, me, Porkins, and Ragnar Fresh, this is our like group of friends that we quite often play video games together and stuff like that. We don't hang out in real life all the time. However, the relationship is still there because we talk to each other all the time in Discords.
Yeah.
Yep.
If we were just chatting in Discords, when we did meet in real life, I think it would probably be a little bit more awkward. But because we have actual conversations through Discord, like in not just text chat, like it doesn't feel awkward. So I think that like there's something to be said with like actually talking to someone rather than just texting, and there's a difference between those two things.
Like there's a connection when you actually speak to someone over voice instead of just typing. Because when you're typing, you can be anyone. But when it's like, especially video, like you're putting yourself out there, you're showing yourself to the person. It's like, hey, this is me. And then even though it's scary and you can easily just walk out of the situation, you can like portray yourself, and that's like, hey, how are you? This is me. I'm the person you've been speaking to for the past like 2 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that.
Totally.
And that would be like the difference between, like you were saying, obviously you've got text messages and like when you these days you just have to text me, but because and you don't have to make a phone call anymore. And I feel like that's what you were saying when you were saying like, oh, the negative things of the internet. But as long as you're still having those phone conversations or verbal conversations, I think that reduces a lot of the negative aspects of moving towards like text and online chats.
I was definitely thinking about it more from sometimes I get stuck in just thinking about it from like a youth perspective, because that's what I did most of the time. So I was thinking like in terms of development and that. But yeah, for us adults, we're great friends, because we probably wouldn't, well, me and you and Porkins and Ragnar would definitely not be as good of friends if it wasn't for the internet.
Discord, yeah.
Discord.
No, yeah, no, 100%. Like I knew Porkins and you and stuff, but if it hadn't been for like playing video games and stuff together, our paths would never really have crossed.
Yep. And then I went to PAX to meet Fly and Kat and Louis. We had a grand old time. And Louis is like friends with everyone.
I think what I kind of get out of internet is like, it's a really good way to expand your potential for meeting new people. But for you to actually like solidify relationships and solidify like friendships, you have to have
face to face
verbal conversations, like a lot of them, and ideally like face to face conversations as well, and like meet up in real life, because you never really know someone until you've met them in real life. You know?
That's literally, because that's literally my job right now, is talking to people on the phone and then telling them to come into the shop, and then they're completely different in real life than they are on the phone. It's actually mad. Like, they seem, because with phone calls and just texting in general, you don't get to choose what kind of mood they're in at the exact time as well. So you can call them, you can text them, you know, at a random time. They just heard bad news or they just had a bad day, and then you get that side of them as well. And when you meet them, you know, you've made an appointment in that sense to be with them at that point. They already know, you know, a day or two beforehand that they'll be meeting with you, so they adjust themselves in that way. That's also like towards the whole socializing with them. It's a lot different in that sense.
You have a better control over the environment, is that what you're saying? Like, you can control the environment that you're in. Yeah, I get that.
Because I sometimes pick up the phone call, you know, to talk to a customer or something like that, and I don't know what they've done, you know, today, how their day's been today. I could be, you know, talking to anyone at that point, or any of the emotional sides of them. If they're having a good day, great, yay. But yeah, if they're not, you know.
I think from that as well is like you've got like a limited pool of like social cues that you can pick up on. You know, like when you're like, obviously if you're just in chat, there's even more reduced, but then in a phone call, you've only really got their voice and the inflections of their voice that change depending on the audio quality. Whereas like in real life, if you meet someone, you've got like the entire spectrum of like social cues that you can try to pick up on. You've got
you pick up so much from body language.
Their expressions, their body language, the tone of their voice, you know, rather than just what they're saying and how they're saying it, or in a text chat. Man, text, like, oh my goodness, text chat is like the worst for like socializing. You don't know. Yeah, exactly.
I've had so many like fights with friends because they've like said something so like half-heartedly, but someone's taken it the wrong way just because they can't read the connotation of, did they mean it with intent, or did they mean it as like they just said it because that was like the first thing they said, like it wasn't anything second thought of. And so that like plays a massive part in like trying to kind of figure out people is on chat. It's very difficult.
Having arguments or anything like that over text is just irresponsible, in my opinion. It's just not.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no point of it. There's no, you don't, neither of you get the status because you both are going to be sitting at your device, looking at the messages the way you want them to see it, but they're not going to see it that way because they're angry at you. It's just,
There's only
There's
so
no
many
emotion. You can't
emojis you
convey
can use.
emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. You also have to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just like think that they're like 100% angry at you. Like even if like something has happened and your argument has like divulged into being something like talking like to each other angrily, you can't be like, oh, they're actually really angry. You just got to make sure that like what you're reading is hopefully what they're saying.
Yeah. This kind of it leans into something that I really wanted to talk about is that like when you're socializing with someone, you have to think about the location that the socializing is taking place in, and that changes how you would be thinking about and how you would like read people's messages or whatnot like that. And it's the same thing. So like if you're in a text chat, you need to be aware that you're in a text chat. So you shouldn't like get angry at someone just because you read something and you need to take it a certain way. You need to apply the context of, well, I'm in a text chat, so maybe they didn't mean it that way. Like there's no way for me to know exactly. And it's the same thing with like the location that socializing is happening in. The social cues and stuff that you get at, like if you're out at a party, are vastly different to how you need to react to social cues and stuff that you get when you're at work.
Yeah.
For example.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's no connection. There's no like responsibility in that sense. So, like the way that's massively impacted me when speaking to someone like in this call, for example, there's 5 people I've never met before, and I'm being exposed to them and talking to them and like presenting myself. If anything goes wrong at any point, I can feel awkward. I can just hit one button, and at the click of the button, I'm disconnected. You're not going to see me again. So I can I can remove myself from that situation in a second, and there's no remorse. There's no connection there whatsoever. There's nothing attached. But like when we met up face to face, like when I met Woke, it was such a cool experience. But at the same time, I'm extremely nervous because like what's their perception of me? How do I present myself? Is this, if I do this, is this awkward? Like, is it what they expected me to be like? But there's so many things that's going through your mind, and you can't be like, oh, this is awkward. I'm just gonna walk away from this conversation in the middle of nowhere.
You've just got to sit in the awkwardness.
You gotta build that connection. Yeah, that's where like the social skills come in, and the interpersonal skills. Yeah,
100%. And it's like, and it's vastly different. Like you can't, for example, if you're at a party, everybody's drinking, that people have like inhibitions that are like loosened a little bit, and like for example, it would be perfectly acceptable for someone to like hit on you or something at a party, but that would be completely not okay to do at work, for example. And it's like that's just an example of how like you've got 2 different like locations that you have to read social. And man, it's like I think it's like socializing is one of the most complicated areas that we have 100%. To deal with, and it's no surprise to me that we have so many people that struggle with it, and why online communities are becoming so popular. Because there's so many people that go, well, anything to make socializing just a little bit more tolerable or easy.
Yeah. Well, it's for like the younger generation, a lot of it is balance too. So from such a young age, you're exposed to so much, and they're obviously they're not mature enough to handle it. They don't find the balance, and their entire social identity is practically online.
Yep.
And that's like the entire generation coming through that.
That's hard.
Do you think that would be something that we should like be trying to like combat that, and like stop like people getting online until a certain age kind of thing? Or
I don't know how you'd police it, but obviously it's becoming a problem because they're not able to identify risk behaviors themselves, and they're like the only ones. There's no supervision.
True.
Especially like it's a bit off topic, but I want to touch on it. Like the new Fortnite update, it touches into that social skills where
I want patch notes.
Anything that you do in Fortnite now, you get that instant gratification that you've achieved something. Like if you chop down a tree, oh great, you got this big achievement, they make this big event, and you feel like you've accomplished something in life, and then you get that dopamine, which is just like your biology. You can't change that.
Yeah.
And kids, like they don't know that, so they get that immediate gratification that they've achieved something. They go to school, they try and talk to someone, try and tell them about it, and they're like, we don't care. And then they have to become used to that and adapt to that. Like this isn't normal. Like this is not how I can get it. Why would I go for the effort of building a relationship with someone where I can go play a video game and get that gratification and feel good about myself,
I had
even though
a
they have no idea why they feel good.
I did a training on video game addiction a little while back, and one of the points that was really interesting to me that stuck out was the reasons why people get into gaming, or become addicted to gaming. And it was, and one of the ones that was really interesting was, there's compared to life, which is like you can have really hard times in your life or really good times. It's a bit of like a roller coaster, as we all know. Whereas in games and I see this in a lot of online interactions, there's a bit of a safety net where things are either, so in gaming, either stagnant or you're progressing. You're always like going uphill a bit. You don't often have like really poor experiences. And similar with chatting in a chat room and that kind of thing. There's this like wall of anonymity, I guess, and you never have like a super awkward experience.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And that's kind of like what Spicy was saying, is like, if it is a bit awkward, you can like make your exit very easily, you know, and like from social interactions online, and avoid that awkwardness, or like, especially in text chat, if you're feeling a bit awkward or whatever, you just can stop replying, and it's not really, people don't find that weird, you know. And so, and then you can come back when you're feeling on top of your game again and like basically restart. So there's no punishment for like there's no real punishment for like online social interactions. You know, there's only good things. You know, there's only the good side of it. You don't have any of the potential bad sides of socializing where things go wrong, or you know, definitely. You put your foot in your mouth, or you know, someone teases your beard and you feel really sad and have to run around. Someone posts a picture of you, you know, looking like a homeless person, and you want to like, and you just like deafen and hide your camera, you know.
Yeah, we saying such nice things about your beard too.
Flyers is totally like immune to me now at this point.
Well, something with the only being good things is like yes, they're like, you've got the like anonymity. You can like talk online. If you do something like embarrassing, you can leave straight away. Don't worry about it. But a lot of the time, when I'm talking to friends and stuff like that, and I say something dumb, yeah, it's funny, but like, or if it's not funny, then they capitalize on it. Like, I've had conversations with friends, and then they like, I say something really dumb, and then they'll type it into a chat, like in a group chat, and they'll save what I've said in that chat, so it's there forever. So it's like never leaving. So as much as it can be a good thing, being able to leave, having a text chat where it's logged and it's like archived, you can probably say something really dumb online, and someone's taken a screen grab of it, and it's in the internet now.
That is the big negative of it. And once again, going back to youth, because that's what I deal with, is that they don't really understand this, and they'll send silly pictures or something, and these things are just there forever, and it's like, and it can be like life ruining in some circumstances. So there is big negatives behind it too.
That brings on the whole thing. It's like that thing that's going around where you put like a Twitter post up, and then you put some random famous person's, you know, Twitter tag at the top and say they've said it, but it's actually fake. It's like that whole thing where it's like, it's not really to do with the social thing, but it's just with the whole screenshot of text and then taken out of context, and then people just lying what other people are saying, and that whole thing. That's what. I guess,
and then you've got like, have you guys seen like deep fakes? Have we talked about that on a podcast?
Scary, we've talked about that before. We talked about that before.
Yeah, we talked about that before. But yeah, that's pretty terrifying. When you think about like that, anyone can fake your like, not just your voice, but like your visage,
like actual
like a video of you saying something like out of context or whatever. That's
I watch people make that. I watch people make that
too.
with an app on their phone that they can download. They film someone, get like 10 photos of a random person, and then that maps it onto your face, and you can pretty much, like, Snapchat has it. It's so easily. You can like create a fake persona online with photos. Like online.
People
just
abusing
because it's
online.
so easy.
By your friends. Now this is exactly what we're talking about. Do you want to should we segue a little bit into bullying? I know that Fresh, you put that you wanted to talk a little bit about bullying, and what did you put?
I should
when
just
to stand up to bullies.
We should just really quickly address, because some people are saying in chat, SpicyMayoh talking about environments and controlling your environment. You're in a bit of a strange environment, mate. What's going on there? What's behind you? Can you explain?
What's behind me? I'm currently at the Courage of the Cowardly Dog, so I've got the great environment. I'm just visiting him, like, you know, going to see my good friend.
It
So
fits the theme. It fits the theme.
That's so
just
good.
gotta say hello. That's all. It's been a while.
He's actually there.
He's right there.
Good. Doing good.
What do we
No,
want to talk?
it's
Should we
Yeah. I was thinking about segueing into bullying, just because we touched on it a little bit and about it, because you know, school kids deal with that kind of stuff every day, all day, every day.
Well, me and Fly were actually talking about bullying a little bit, like probably a couple of months ago now, and the effects that it has, and where I'm always very interested about where lines are with because a lot of parents will maybe tell their kids to stand up for themselves, which is a brilliant message in itself, but ends up playing out fairly differently when they end up just like cracking some dude in the face who said that they're ugly or whatever. Like, I'm interested in talking about where people say there's lines for where you're meant to retaliate physically, if you're never meant to retaliate physically. Is there a certain time that you should stand up for other people who are getting bullied? What do you guys think about?
It's a hard one. Like, I can speak from personal experience when I went, like, first moving to Australia from South Africa, as I even now have, like, 10 years later, I mumble very, like, often, and I speak extremely fast as well. So that's a big thing to deal with. And when I'm moving here, like when we moved to Australia, we grew up in Kalgoorlie. And in that school was like a public school. Everyone had their little crowds already formulated. Like, it's such a small town that everyone knows everyone. So you already have that little functions. And like what happened with one of mine was, had a good mate. We were at a sports carnival, and he kept harassing me, kept like trying to like just egging me on, get me angry. And then he ended up running up and putting like paint in a hat, and then put the hat on top of my head. And I was like, what the hell? Like, at that point, I just flipped, because it was just like constantly everyone like teasing me, trying to fit in, and trying to like make an image of myself. And then that resulted in me going like, hey, like, I don't like everyone laughing at me. I'm gonna turn this around and then take the attention away from me. So I walked up and then to this bloke, which I'm not happy about, I'm not proud of. But like, in order, at that point, I was like, what, 12 years old? I was like, I need to get the attention off me. I feel awkward. I feel insecure. So I walked up to this kid. I was like, hey, I don't like that you put paint in my hair. I asked you not to. So then I punched him in the face. And then that led to like the next like half an hour of just like fighting between him and me. I punched him. He walked away. Well, he was on the ground for a bit, but then he walked away. Someone like got angry because I punched him, and then his mate attacked me, and then my mate attacked him, and it just escalated. It was like a little like philosophical
gang war.
like philosophy of like, don't like start something, because there's always like a reaction to whatever you did, like Newton's law.
It always escalates, kind of thing.
Yeah, it always escalates, and it was like in a matter of 5 minutes, and then there's people like I genuinely cared about, and now everyone's fighting, and I couldn't understand why, and we're physically hurting each other. So it was just, it was a lot to learn, that a lot of things can be resolved through communicating. But at that age, like, you don't know how to be in touch with your emotions, especially at that time. Like, you being, as a boy, like being in touch with your emotions and saying like, I feel angry because you did this to me. I feel upset because you did this. Like, that wasn't respected or even acknowledged. And even in school was like, it's the worst environment, because everyone's trying to find themselves, like, quote unquote, and like they don't know who they want to be. So they try every area, whether that's being aggressive, whether that's being like by yourself, or reading books, or trying to find like what you identify as. It's a very odd space.
Yeah,
how you want to communicate with one another.
I think there's something there in that, like, most people will try other things first, and I think that violence comes out usually from someone that's been pushed to the extreme. Someone that's like that they've tried saying no. They've tried saying no. They've tried everything, and it's like when someone that's bullying doesn't get the really obvious signal of someone being incredibly upset and saying, you stop what you're doing, you know, and like that's like as overtly obvious as you can put it out there into the world to like, stop bullying me. And if they don't get that, then there's the next step is logically, especially when you're a kid. Well, it's not logical, but like when you're a kid, the next step you see is like, okay, well, like I'm at my wit's end, and like, what else can I do to get this?
Stop.
What else can I do to get this kid's attention and like make my point known? And I think it kind of goes physical, you know? So I don't think, I personally, obviously, once you get in control of yourself, I guess it's a lot easier to avoid those situations, or to master your emotions and whatever. and reason through and be like, okay, I think that I shouldn't, even though I want to hit this guy, like I don't believe in that, so I'm just gonna like remove myself from the situation. But when you're a kid, I think you don't have
the experience
to know that and to master yourself. And so it seems like the logical next step to you when you're a kid is well, I'm at my wit's end. I need to make them understand, and they're not understanding from my direct, obvious communication, and so it escalates to violence.
Yeah.
Would
you mind if we touch on that and try and find that, like, where does that come from? Because in my mind, I'm like, I was trying to justify, not justify, but understand why I went to that. Because I'm not a violent kid. Like I love everyone. I'm a very like a physical person. I like meeting people. I like seeing people happy. So that was a big like change in my personality at that stage. I was like, this is not who I want to be at all, and it scared the crap out of me. And I'm like, I started blaming. I was like, well, it's TV. Like I removed myself from watching TV or movies and stuff because it was always aggressive. If you see someone who is not getting the respect that they feel that they deserve, they automatically, as a man, result into violence. Like that's how you demand respect, because you show your superior physical dominance, which is like so stupid. It's ridiculous. But that was like how it was portrayed to us as kids, especially being from South Africa. Like the way you show you're a man is becoming an engineer, becoming physically dominant. Like that's how you show you're a man, which is absurd, but that's just how it's been the tradition for
it's
so
totally long. It's totally cultural, I think, and especially when you're younger, you're such a reflection of you're just like this blank canvas that is a reflection of how you've been, I almost say brought up, but also with external like media influences. So I don't mean just parents when I say brought up. And and if you keep getting brought up like this, or even if it's we do a lot of glorifying of hitting bullies back in society. I think there's lots of like YouTube videos of like karma videos and that. And I remember Justin Bieber brought this like big kid on stage who was it was like a terrible video of this kid getting bullied, and then he like smashed this other kid, and then Bieber like brought him on stage and was like, yeah, you're the bully hitter or whatever. So stuff like that.
Hit bullies back with mental health numbers.
I don't understand like where they came from, like, because that's the point. Is like the only reason they're hurting someone is because they've been hurt themselves.
They're hurting themselves.
And they don't know how to express themselves.
I think it's so hard to see that, or like even to know about that. Like there's no way that when I was a kid, like I had those facts and those numbers, or that I cared about those facts and those numbers about mental health, or like what that bully's going through, because all you can see and all I could see when I was growing up and got bullied a bit was that I was being bullied, and it made me feel like shit, and that's all you really see. And I think it would be as much as it's like, oh, we need to educate kids and stuff like that. I don't know if that's necessarily going to help, because when someone is bullying you and you feel that shit, you do not care what that bully is going through.
I feel like it needs to be socially acceptable for kids to be able to them to step in immediately.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true.
Yes, I agree.
A lot now, it should never get to the point where you feel so backed into a corner where you need to physically stand up for yourself. And I know that's incredibly instinctual for kids, because for the last 10,000 years we've been doing our talking with fists and swords and it's only last like 500 years where we've been told
trebuchets.
No, like last
I'm getting bullied by Johnny at school. I'm gonna bring my catapult to school.
Louis,
just yeet out of here.
A katana, an axe, a sword? No, catapult.
Well, they did that like at my school back in.
Now those kids bring guns.
They bring like an actual axe, because they started having like it was a very violent school. Like we had once, like it was early in the morning. It was like a Monday morning, beautiful day, and then my mate just got stabbed because they had like two Kiwis came to school, but they weren't part of the school. Walked up, started like mobbing one of my mates, and then the other mate like ran up and pulled out like a shiv, and then that I turned on and then started getting him stabbed. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then like it escalated to another one. Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, just went to the hospital for a couple of days. But like then it was another one where like it was a dance festival and they're trying to like reduce violence. It was this program they're starting where instead of fighting with your fist, like you fight through dancing, which is like the coolest concept in the world. So instead of like selling your like your heat on the dance floor. And then clearly the guy didn't get the memo. Awesome. And he comes to the festival with like a flippant axe because he got mad at another guy who like started flirting with his girlfriend. I'm like, why do you resort to an axe? And you're like 15 years old. Where on earth did you get an axe from?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Fresh take an axe to work.
Gosh.
That Netflix show. It's like that Netflix show that I started watching. It's just like this guy saw, it's like a school grounds, they're seniors, and he saw like a couple of boys bullying another guy, and he just walks up to them and just like kisses one of them, and it's just like, like you felt the connection too, and that just made the whole like everything
Diffuses.
just like awkward, and it was just so good, dude. It's
But
just
it's like the confidence. You have to have that confidence in yourself and like who you are.
obviously,
Yeah.
but that's the funniest thing.
I think
great,
I've seen some videos like that that are really encouraging, and like there'll be dudes like scrap out the front of a restaurant or something, and the waiter will like run out and like offer them pizza or something, and it like totally resolves the issue. I always find that kind of stuff funny and encouraging. But I find that
kind of like one of those like to completely distract them from the topic. It's like it's like kids, you know. I think when you're in that situation, you're relying upon like some really base human instincts, you know. And you go back to like, you know, a child that's crying, for example, and they're just upset. Sometimes they don't, like a baby that's crying, they're just upset. They don't necessarily realize or understand what they're upset about. So if you put like a color picture book in front of them, they get distracted. You know, and it's the same thing. Like you're relying on such base instincts that, like, if something distracts you, even for a moment, you kind of like regain your head and your composure.
I often find it's helpful to explain to the older students and people that if you want to have like if you want to think about your like lasting impact on the situation in the world, it's a good thing to do to try not to teach people to continue. So if you're hitting someone back, you're just reinforcing that. Maybe they might leave you alone, but they might go pick on someone who's a bit smaller. So you're reinforcing that physical is the right way to do things. And then where does that person go? You know, they go bully someone smaller. Maybe they grow up and they get into an abusive relationship as an adult. Not a good way to keep perpetuating the problem.
So it's such a primitive like fallback basically. As soon as you feel threatened, you fall back to that primitive nature. You get angry, your judgment gets clouded, and you're like, well, I can't react. I'm just gonna punch and hope for the best. You just start swinging, and you're like, why? And then literally, like majority of people I've spoken to that's been in fights, like 5 minutes after, they're like, why was I fighting? Like, what did this achieve? All this achieve is like, okay, I've not got a bruise. He's got a bruise. I'm gonna see him again tomorrow, and then it all starts in the beginning. Like, why can't we just talk about this? Like, hey, I feel upset when you do this. I feel upset when you do this. Oh, let's have an agreement. I'll buy you lunch, and we go from there. Like,
which is what most adults would facilitate if they got involved. But the problem is when kids or when people don't have someone get involved to help them out. You know, it just keeps on escalating basically, or like kind of thing. Instead of like, as soon as you get an adult involved, they'll be like, okay, cool. First things first, you remove yourself from the situation. You know, and then we need to start some sort of reconciliation where you guys let each other know, like you talk, use your words.
That's kind of like my experience like that is exactly like what you said. Like my parents, like if I ever got into an argument, I'd tell my mom, be like, hey, this kid's like being a bit of an idiot. He's like telling me these stupid things, blah blah blah. Like I hate him, I hate this, blah blah blah. And she'd be like, don't feed them, don't give them ammo. Like stop as much as you can. Like if you reply to them, you're just going to get a reply back. Like if you just give them their final warning, like, hey, I've had enough of your crap. Like this is my final saying. See you later. Like that's a really good way. I've used it so many times in the past. Just give them their final, like tell them what you want to happen, like what you're kind of like how you're doing things, and then that's it. They're over and done with. And a lot of the time with the physical aspect as well, it may be personalized to me because when I was in school, from like grade 7, I've been 6 foot since grade 7. So a lot of my fights were very short-lived. Because anyone that tried to fight me, like immediately just like I don't want to be like the guy, oh, I beat everyone up at school because I was so tall. Like no one started fights with me because I was so tall. And I guess that's something that a lot of people like kind of don't realize is when you're, you know, fighting someone or you're having an argument with someone, you don't see that. You don't see there's a difference between you. Like if you start a fight with someone way taller than you, obviously you're not going to do it. So words are the best thing because that's a level playing field for everyone. Everyone has a mouth. Everyone has a brain. Not many people are 6 foot. Not many people, you know, are taller than you, kind of thing. Like, like that's like the basis of how you probably should start every or end actually every fight is by just talking.
That's a
Well, I
really
think
good idea. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I think a lot of it comes down to as well how you're raised, and like it sounds like you were saying that like your parents kind of encourage that, Louis.
Yeah, my parents
Yeah.
told me, "You're going to kill someone if you fight them. Don't."
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
I
a
was
gr-
just
that's
like, I was always kind of half scared if I was like, "Oh, if I hit him real hard, maybe I
maybe
don't
he's
want to
gonna
try
kill
that out."
Well, I mean, it's true. It's not. They're not incorrect by saying that, even though you're a you know, like you can not mean something. The amount of people that go to jail for manslaughter because they
Exactly,
thought that
yeah.
they were punching lightly or something, and then someone hits their head on the ground and like
Yeah.
dies.
No, that petrifies me.
Yeah, but it's really good that your parents like instilled that in you, and I think a lot comes down a lot more responsibility once again. Like I feel like we touch on this at some point in every podcast that we do, comes down to parents and their responsibility to teach their
100%.
child
Yeah.
how to react and also how things are dealt with in the home. You know, like if a mum gets really aggressive and angry and shouts and stuff when she's angry, you know, the kid
That's
is
just
probably
gonna
going to
reflect
manifest
on the kid.
that
Yeah,
instead of
100%.
Yep.
or like if they're hit when they're doing things wrong, you know, they're potentially going to manifest that when someone else is doing something wrong. They go, well, they need to be physically punished rather than being like using their words and being calm and
My
controlled.
mum
and being
does
like,
this.
this
It's
is
the
how
right
you
thing
do
to
it.
do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So I think a lot of responsibility for physical bullying comes down to parenting.
I know you
Yeah,
had
because
some.
they have no previous experience too. So it's
Yeah.
just like they're only going off what they know. And if their parents have taught them that, oh, if you do something wrong, you get a smack on the face, like a smack or something like that, that's just gonna, you know.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Pretty disgusting.
Yeah. But like even like touching on what you just said, there's like with my mates when I first like again come back to Australia, because that was the most like recent experience that I had with bullying, is experiencing that and like different social cues. Because in Australia, how you show your affection to one another, like just bros to bros, like you insult one another like that, like that relationship there was completely different to me. Where in South Africa, you just like you show respect to them and your affection to them by having as little interaction as possible and respecting them as like, okay, they're a good person. But in Australia, you touch on the things like, hey, oh, you've got a big nose or you've got big ears. Like you take the piss out of one another, and that shows like, hey, I noticed you in a sense.
Picking up cues, yeah.
And that was a big thing when I first moved here. Then one of my best mates now for like what 14 years.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to cover.
yeah.
Actually, is the ribbing that happens between young lads and
Yeah,
where that goes. Because it is very natural, and it is an Australian culture, like you said, Spicy, where we kind of like break each other down a bit, and you do that with your good friends. But there is a lot of times that it doesn't go super well.
I have a bit of a theory on this, just because I mean I got bullied quite a bit growing up, just because I was always the smallest in the room.
Yeah.
Through early years
And
of
now
high
you're
school
really
and
tall.
primary
How
school.
does that happen?
yeah.
You're taller than me.
Yeah.
I know. Well, when I'm in between 15
grew
and
older.
16. Between 15 and 16, I went from being, so at the end of the last year, I was the shortest in the year. And then at the beginning of the next year, I was the tallest in the year. Crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, and from that, obviously, I got a sense of what it was like to be the one that like really, really got bullied. And I was always like pretty headstrong and confident in myself. Or like confident internally. I didn't portray that confidence externally yet, but and I knew that I could handle it. I knew that because I got bullied quite a bit, I was like, okay, I got a bit of I've got an all right head on my shoulders. I can cop being bullied. And so what I used to do growing up is I used to make myself a target, and I still probably do it. I probably don't do it as much these days, but I used to make myself a target for ridicule, because I thought in my mind, I was like, look, if I know I can take it, then better that people are bullying me or targeting me rather than targeting someone else who might not be able to take it. So I've kind of, because of that, I've obviously at certain points in my life got to points where I was being targeted or ridiculed by my mates probably too much, and it got to me, you know.
Yep.
And
I think
from
of
that,
certain times.
well, okay,
Head rests.
look, I can tell a story.
Look, I'll tell the story and you can
Go for
correct
it.
any. So everyone's on a bus, right? I don't know where everyone's going on this bus.
Were you there?
It's just one of those things where it's been told so many times, and I'm in part of that group that I feel like I was there, but at the same time, I don't think I was. But anyway, I'm just gonna say I was there, and everyone was playing. Well, it was kind of a game where you just slap people like randomly for no good reason, and Matt
Not
got
just slap him, head slap.
Yeah, like on the
top,
head,
the crown of the head.
Yeah,
Bam.
that was
like
on the top, which hurts.
On the top.
And
It
then
hurts.
the final straw for Woke was it Spud?
No, it was Matt. I was just
Was it John? John.
Yeah.
Spud's brother just winded up this massive crown slap, smacked him so hard there was water in his eyes, and everyone was laughing. Ha 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 ha! Good job, well done, John. Sat back down. The next minute, we turn around. He's taken off the headrest. You know those headrests which like it's two like metal prongs, and then like the cushion. He's taken it off. He's got the prongs, and he's coming out. He's about to like neck it, like just stab him.
Wow.
You idiot! Yeah, that's the extent of the story, basically.
Damn, mate.
Yeah.
Damn.
Look, I mean, that's not exactly how it went down, but like that's the general gist of the story. Like I'd been kind of the target of it, and I got to the point where I couldn't handle it anymore, and I just snapped because I like the emotions like got too much for me. But back to my theory on like the ridiculing between mates, because like obviously I don't mind. Everybody was getting head slapped and stuff like that, but it was when I when I felt like I was the sole getter of the attention.
There was a clear divide in like
and I think that's the thing. So like it's like people don't mind being ridiculed a little bit. Like if you're part of a group of friends and like, oh, we're poking fun at him and now we're poking fun at him, but it's if you're part of that group and all of the ridicule is falling onto one person, that person it's crossing a line for that person. And that person is feeling like shit usually. You know, and whereas if they see that they got bullied, but then the next day someone else gets bullied, you know, then it becomes, it's like, oh, we're all mates and we're like shooting shit, and I shouldn't take it so personally because it happens to everybody, you know?
Yeah,
but then, like, that's never really spoken about, because that's one thing. Like up until like maybe like year 9, year 8, I never knew that's how it was. I always thought like, hey, they're taking a piss, like they hate me, they're touching me because like I'm insecure about this. They don't like this about me. I need to change this about myself in order for me to fit into like the Australian culture. But I never understood like, hey, they're doing that because they care. Like they see me as a friend. They see me as a fellow person. Which is it's different. Like that's never really spoken about. It's just an unspoken rule.
It is something that should be talked about and explored a bit.
I mean, I think, and is this, Kat, you could probably speak to this a little bit. Is that like a guy thing?
Yeah.
Like that
slapping
whole, like,
each other.
Like, do girls do the same thing?
Reading,
so like,
reading
girls like just talk shit about each other like all the time, and then that's how you kind of reinforce being friends. Is
Kat's also from New Zealand.
Like, would you make the comment to say, "Hey, Woke, why do you have a longboard and a skateboard? Can you make up your mind?" Like,
I'm being bullied.
I just want to touch on that whole moving thing, because I moved here, you know, in the middle of the year into New Zealand, which was like the end of the year.
How old were you?
For their class. So I had no idea how to act, what to do, where my place was. Everyone had their friend groups since primary school, you know. And then plus on top of that, the high school I went to was an all-girls school. So there were no video games talked about. There was no there was a football team that I was in, but none of the girls were like interested in anything that I like. We talked about football, but again, that comes on with the whole. Some of them were younger than me, so they had their own friends groups. Some of them were older than me, so they had their own friend groups. So my whole life with school, especially, even in Germany, I felt out of place, like completely. Since I left school, it's been like a lot better because of online and everything. Now getting back to the whole topic about punching each other.
Well, not necessarily punching each other or physical,
you know
but like
I mean.
like even just like ribbing,
Physical play, like no, not like that.
Well, no,
Whoa.
okay, so
Yeah,
I'm not
well-
even necessarily talking about physical. I'm talking about like even just like teasing each other, but like it's an affectionate thing because like and like literally this is every single group of guys that I'm friends with.
Yeah.
This is something that every single group of them has in common, that we
I'm
all
trying to
playfully tease each
remember.
other and ridicule each
think
other and bully each
The
other.
most, the extent. I think the one thing that we did was we had a friend who she had she's really nice, and we all got along with her and stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, we're all best friends with her. We were best friends with her, but she had a condition with her eyes that she was blind when she was younger. So like the bottom of her eyes were quite dark because they were still recovering from that condition. So she kind of looked like an emoji. She looked like the moon emoji for a bit. And she also liked sausage rolls a lot. So what we did is we like Photoshop. We just like it's a joking thing where we just Photoshop like stuff like that. But we did it to everyone. And then we made we even went to the extent where we put like little badges with our faces on it, and we had like we're walking around with our Photoshop faces and like badges on, but nothing physical in that sense. It's more very mentally and emotional, like kind
So
of.
would you take the jab like as like just Woke said before? Like, would you take the quick jab like, "Hey, you're so tall," or "Hey, big ears"? Like, do you make remarks like that when you're with your
No,
friends?
no.
Okay.
Definitely
so
not.
it's a
I
weird
find
thing.
that very. I think as a girl group, it's very insensitive to do that.
Yeah. Whereas,
In
like,
that
for
sense.
example, in my group of friends, like, if I rock up somewhere and I'm like, for example, before looking a little bit homeless, you'd be like, "Oh, look at this fat slob," like,
Yes,
or
that
like,
I
"Oh,
can get behind that.
sorry, mate, I've got some change in my wallet for you."
Yeah.
Like
No.
that kind of thing is like that's so normal, and it's.
Yeah.
Like I do it to them as well, and like literally every single group of like male friends, we all do this to each other.
Yeah. It also
And-
comes
So
with
weird.
like something that along the lines of like agreeing with you, like saying like my friend group is probably one of the more brutal friend groups I've ever been a part of. Like throughout my whole life, this group has been the longest, but yet has been the most savage because there's times where I'm like, that's it. Never talking to these people again. These guys are out of my life. And then the next week, I'm just like, all right, guys, we're going to play some games. Like, it's 100% like that. But in saying that, I've always had like the backup of knowing they're my friends. Like, they're not going to say anything truly malicious about me. They're going to tell me, like, obviously, I have hereditary hair loss. I'm going to lose my hair. I've started losing it. That's why I'm wearing the beanie. The amount of times I've been like shoved into, oh, he's going to be bald. And he's like, oh, baldy, like 100%. All my friends have something along those lines. So one of my friends, he's like a really high, like widow's peak. Talk shit about the widow peak. One of my friends, he's an electrician. He always like makes comments about like power lines and stuff like that. We're like, there's a power line over there, mate. What's that? Like, what kind of cable is that? Like, it's just 100%. Like each person in the group has something that we can comment on, and it kind of circulates. So we never say we don't say anything new, but there's always something that we can get behind and kind of have a shot back at them.
And
If we're
But do you reckon that like builds onto the top? Like for me personally, that helped me develop as a person to see, hey, well, like I'd rather my best mates, the people that have been close to me for the past 8 years, take a quick jab at me and me doing something new. Like for example, the streaming, the amount of times that they've ripped into me and made me feel so inferior into streaming. But I'm like, no one else on the internet can possibly insult me more than the people closest to me because they know exactly how to jab at me.
it builds
So
up
they
a
prepare me
resilience.
and
It
build that
builds up something like
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
hear it in the wild, like you hear it on stream or you hear it by another person that you've had a disagreement with, and they comment on like your hair, and you're like, oh mate, nothing I've heard before. Like
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
just you're so immune to some of the jokes. If you keep
Yep.
repeating them to one another, it kind of becomes a joke itself, regardless of it being malicious or not. Like my friends can tell me that I'm bald.
Like, they care.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no way that I'm ever going to be like, oh, he actually doesn't like me because I've got no hair. Like it's not gonna be. It's not gonna be like that. It's like
so
Definitely.
yeah.
I
So
definitely think it's an Australian thing because here in New Zealand, I currently do live with boys rather than girls, and we do joke about our imperfections in that way. Like one of my friends is quite, he can be loud at some points, the wrong opinions, and we just make fun of him for his opinions, and that's just how it is. But if someone makes like a like physical point about someone that they point out, say your hair is really weird today or something, like I
Yeah.
can't really think of anything
Like
today
shiny
right now.
forehead or
Yeah, like something
big
like
forehead.
that. It's just
Mm.
like you think about like, is that necessary?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it
Well,
like, in that sense, I would never think of it on the spot to like point out something because I just think, is it necessary? But maybe that's just an Australian culture thing that you just do that.
maybe.
But
Yeah,
But then
it
you
might
also have to
actually be.
address it as well. You have to, like, especially with my mates that are in New Zealand, like majority of my people that I play games with, like they're from New Zealand. And in the beginning when we started playing, I would take a jab like, "Oh mate, you can't shoot to save your life." Like, take quick jab like that, and then you would discuss afterwards, like, because there's no body language, and it's awkward
yeah,
as hell. Because like I can insult them, and I don't even mean to insult them. I'm just trying to like build that
Mm.
friendship.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
have to address, like, come back, like, do the full loop around, like,
Yep.
hey, I didn't mean to offend you. That's just how I show that I care.
Mhm.
That's how
Yeah.
I interact in the game. If it
Yep.
does offend you, please let me know. And
Yep.
you
And
have
I think
to open that barrier of communication.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important topic to touch on because, like, your friends, your really close friends, or the people that you're that are ridiculing or bullying you a little bit,
Yeah.
that you're okay with the bullying. That, or you also see the flip side of like where they care, or where they go out of their way to help you, or so you've got that like contrasting view. Whereas like with someone that's an actual bully, you don't have that contrast. You don't have that.
No,
Oh,
you
this is
don't want to spend a second conversation with them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have that, or they care about me, or we're really good friends, or like I spend heaps of time with them. An actual bully is someone that like you're completely removed from, except for the bad stuff.
Mm.
You know. But yeah, that I touched on it before, but like that's where I think let's get back to like the
Bullying.
line and when it's crossed kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
think especially with your groups of friends, it gets crossed when you're the sole source of the bullying.
Like, when do you feel like you're a punching bag, essentially?
Mhm.
And then how do you address that without like jeopardizing like your friendship in a sense? And how do you determine, like, is this a real friendship or is it just because they're taking the piss?
Well, I think it's like, I mean, it's so easy to say this and it's harder to do, but it's all about like addressing, like
Yeah.
letting your feelings be known and talking about it. Because if you were to bring up to someone, hey man, like this is how I feel when you say those things. I don't really like it. Could you stop it?
Yeah.
And then they say, haha, no, fuck you.
And they keep
Or
joking
like,
on about the way
and
you
then they
just
keep
said.
joking
Yeah.
on about it, then they're not a real friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when like, I mean, Fresh, you put on here that you wanted to talk about like losing friends and ending friendships and how. And this is probably a good segue because like if someone's, oh my god,
Just quickly though, before we go there, I wanted to ask
yeah.
Fly's experience because he talked about how much you want to talk about. I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but he had some really interesting points when we talked about it.
Yeah. I copped it pretty bad. Probably when I was a lot younger. Physical abuse, it lasted for quite a significant amount of time. It was quite severe.
Yeah.
I've still got tons of scarring. But for me, like obviously because I was targeted by a group of people and for very particular reasons, being that I obviously when I was a kid I'm incredibly dyslexic, so I couldn't read. And I've got two mums, so I had lesbian parents. So when I was targeted, I feel like I couldn't go to adults. I didn't really have like a place to go. So I couldn't talk to my parents because I felt like that was quite a harmful topic for them.
Yeah.
And I realized that even at a young age. So for me, obviously I went to straight away, like what I was saying, instinctually, I tried to fight back. I'd always end up losing, didn't win many of those fights. But for me, self-improvement was the thing that fixed it.
Yeah.
It was like the last thing I went to was self-improvement. And it was just like, constantly improving myself until I wasn't the target anymore. I sort of just like moved that onto someone else.
Yeah.
So it was just sort of like, pushing, kicking the can down the road or sort of thing. It was just trying to like put myself out of the spotlight so I was no longer like bottom of the food chain.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. Like, thank you for sharing that. Like, I'm very, very sensitive to anything like that and anyone sharing stuff. So I just want to say, like, it's awkward, people. It's over the internet. I appreciate that you shared that.
Yeah.
Because that's hard shit, and like that you stuck through it. Because I've lost a lot of people in my life, like two similar situations. So yeah, thank you for fighting, my dude.
Yeah.
Cool to meet you. Yeah.
Yeah. You do see that a lot though as well, like people kicking the can further down the road. And like
Yeah.
I think it's something that like it's so easy to do, or like not so easy to do. It's like a natural part of trying to make yourself feel better when you're younger, that you kind of like go, well, they feel good from doing it. It makes me feel shit, but I want to feel good, so I'm going to do it to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's probably so incredibly difficult to stop yourself from wanting, or like from doing that, you know, when you're younger.
Yep. Yeah. Harder to regulate.
Definitely. But yeah, to touch on that thing what you just said before, like losing your friends and saying like cutting off friends in a sense, that's a massive thing. And me, like personally, again, like that happened as soon as you finished high school. The moment you finished year 12, you drastically realize like who do you care about and who you don't care about, and who cares
the
about you.
friend group drops off
It
significantly.
drops
Like you hang out
significantly,
with like 100 people throughout the day that you're friends with, but at the end of the day, you talk to like two or three people you'd go out and hang out with.
That, and then like no one else cares. No one else will respond. No one's gonna make an effort, and it's like, why would I spent the past 12 years with you developing and growing, and now it's like, okay, I'm out. I'm gonna make myself, and then you try and identify who you are, and you're trying to as soon as possible get rid of those people who that doesn't mean anything to you whatsoever.
It kind of sorts itself out as well. I can like say that when I was at school, a lot of my friends kind of like stuck together when we finished school, and we kind of tried our best to like do things together and be friends for further on. But we all just kind of start getting lives. So some of us start moving, some of us start working full time and not having time to spend with you because you're still doing uni or you're doing other things, and that can kind of come naturally. And it's not about like losing friends because you're not spending time with each other because you don't want to be friends. It's because you just don't have the time to spend to be friends, kind of thing as well.
But did you ever have to have that conversation where like you have to develop, like for example, me and my good mates at the moment, they've been with me through a lot of stuff, but like it's literally been 12, 13 years of us like building our friendships, and we've been through like breakups and all those like heartache stuff that you just build with your mates. But then the problem was like one of my good mates, he works in the mines. I work in computers. We have no communication there. He doesn't play games anymore. We don't have that connection. I want to start a business and like leave a legacy. He couldn't care less. He just wants to do a 9 to 5 and have a wife and kids. And like there was no connection whatsoever with that friendship. And I was like, well, like I love you, man, but you're not helping me grow. And I feel like that you're just holding me back in a sense. Like, did you anyone else have to experience anything like that? Where you have to take that step, like, hey, like you're a brother to me, but you're holding me back and wanting what I want to achieve. So you either have to support me or I have to cut you off. Like, did anyone else have to experience that at all?
I've less so done that, and more done the where I've gone to someone and been like, hey man, like this is how I feel, and the response I got back was not really acceptable. And so I was like, okay, and I didn't then go back to him again and be like, well, just so you know, like we're not probably going to be hanging out much anymore. Like we just stopped hanging out,
I went through a phase where I was quite sad a lot, and obviously they attracted friends of mine that I met after school that were also quite sad in that way. When I kind of stopped having those phases where I cried a lot and stopped feeling sorry for myself in that sense, I realized I need to cut a lot of people out for me to actually be happy in that sense. I cut out a lot of people, even after school. Like I don't talk to any of my school friends anymore. A lot of friends because I moved here up to Auckland, from where my parents live at the moment. I barely talk to any of them because it's that stage from my life is behind me. And I still, have 5-minute conversation on Facebook with them, and that's about it. But because we don't hang out anymore, because we don't, we don't have those 2 a.m. mental breakdown, depression messages, or come over, I'm sad type of situations. It's just that thinking about it now, it was so unnecessary. And it's just cutting all those people out, it's worth it, honestly. That if you get that first instinct that they're not good for you, do it. It helps you so much. It's
I've had a situation where I've had to kind of push one friend to the side because I got a girlfriend back when I left school, and she was really cool for the beginning, and I was really happy because we were happy, and I introduced her to my friend group, and everyone was like, "Oh, cool, you've got a girlfriend." Like that's pretty standard. One friend didn't appreciate that I had a girlfriend. He kept making jokes, and he kept like calling out on her looks and calling her ugly. And she liked, cosplaying, and so she dressed up as certain things. And he's like, "Oh, she's just a furry because she dresses up." And I was just like,
Oh wow.
"Whoa, whoa, whoa! You can't just like
Yeah.
make those assumptions, but you can't, call her out for doing something that she likes." It got to the point where everyone in the friend group was just like, "You need to stop. Like this is just like nonsense now. You're just actually like bullying this person that
being a
someone
dick,
cares
yeah.
about." Yeah, being a dick. Had the conversation with him where I said, "Hey, if you're not going to say anything nice, I'm not going to say anything to you, blah, blah, blah. Like, you need to sort yourself out. Don't talk to me until you can figure out how to be nice to me or my girlfriend, blah, blah, blah." And we did, and he stopped talking. He told his mum, and my mum and his mum were so close, and so my mum knew that I had that conversation with him because they had talked. And she's like, "Oh, what are you going to do?" I'm like, "I'm just not going to talk to him. He decides that he can't talk to my girlfriend like that, blah blah blah." And like a whole like 10 months went past where I
Whoa.
didn't talk to someone that I've known since like grade 5. So I've known this guy for like 11 years. Really thought that he was a good friend, but he just kept going and going and going, and I had to cut off that friendship, even though it was such a strong relationship, because he lived a block away from me my whole life. And so every
Wow.
afternoon, go to his house, come on, bounce on the trampoline, made videos with him, played games with him, everything. When it got too far, I had to cut it off. All that kind of went down the bin because, you had to do it.
That's hard,
But eventually, after those months, slowly he messaged me like every now and then going, "Hey, what you up to? Do you want to catch up? Do you want to do something?" And we got back into the swing of things. And by that time, obviously, I think I'd broken up with her at that point, and it was a bit on the side of, yeah, she actually wasn't that good of a girlfriend. But in saying that, his like statement still didn't stand. Like he just couldn't talk to me like that. And we're back now, back where like we were, but there was a 9-10 month separation of us.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think it's all about setting standards, like even with your best friends, like
exactly. No one's immune. Like you just because your best friend.
I've definitely said to a good friend of mine before, like, "Hey man, like that kind of gets to me. Do you mind not doing that?" And like, at first they thought I was joking, and I was like, "But like, seriously, actually, I'm not okay with it." And they were like, "Oh, okay." Like I didn't realize. Like, no problems, man. Real sorry. And like that's the correct reaction. And I like, but like you need to be able to set standards for your self-worth. You need to not for your self-worth. You need to have enough self-worth, confidence.
Like, what are your morals?
who,
Like, what are you standing by?
yeah, exactly. And believe in who you are enough to be able to go to other people out there and be like, "Hey, this is the standard that I expect from you when you're interacting with me," and like, don't set that so low. Some people set it way too low. And like, I see the people that they hang out with, and I'm like, wow, that person is toxic. Like, man, I can't believe
just actually figuring out the line of banter and bullying.
Yeah, 100%. But what would you guys say to like school age kids, like people that are in school where they can't cut that person out? It's all very well to be like, well, when you leave school, like you can
never have to speak to that person.
Yeah, you never have to speak to them again. But like when you're at school, you've got to be with those people in classes together, see them on the playground every single day, all day. Like, how do you facilitate that cutting them out of your life if you can't cut them out of your life?
Well, a lot of people don't. That's why like you leave school and do so much growing as a person, and immediately you've lost 75% of the people that you're hanging out with in high school. It's just because you're.
Well, like when my school experience, if I had a disagreement with someone, if I didn't like someone, obviously you'd ignore them. You wouldn't speak to them. You'd rotate around their friend group. You'd find other people to talk to. You'd do things differently throughout school. And I think that was easier in school because you had so many options in regards to, or maybe it's personal bias. Like I personally was easily, like I could easily make friends at school because I didn't like have any enemies. So everyone was kind of like a mutual friend. Like no one was good friends, no one was bad friends. Like they're all level. So I could go and around. Like if I had a disagreement with someone, I'll just go find someone else to talk to. It was easy because you're in an environment with 20 other kids for 8 hours a day. While now, if you have a disagreement with one of your friends, it's kind of like the circle's smaller because you don't have that area anymore. So like it's harder when you're out of school. But in school, I would always just try and find other things to do other than just like make a problem out of this person.
Yeah.
Is it? I have a question because I really struggled making friends that I actually enjoyed hanging around, especially when it comes to girls. What is it like for boys making friends? Like, what are the steps for you guys? Because for girls, it's a whole lot of, I don't know, it's a
I
lot
feel
of
like
fitting in.
I have a story that is very, very, very like not barbaric. It's very like primitive in how boys make friends.
Go.
I went out to so in Brisbane where I used to live, there is a place where all the clubs are called the Valley, and the Valley is a place where everyone goes Friday night, Saturday, Sunday nights. It's like a really busy place. Lots of clubs, lots of drinking, lots of drunk people. And you go out with a group of friends and you have fun. I went out one day with a very brightly Hawaiian shirt on because that was just how I dressed that night. I was like, you know what? This Hawaiian shirt looks good on me. I'm going to go out drinking. There was some guy at the bar with the exact same shirt, and we instantly became friends. It was so instant that I didn't even know his name at the end of the night, but we like hugged each other goodbye when we left the bar, and we like made it look like a huge ceremony. Like I would known this guy forever. But like it was like we became such good friends in maybe 20 minutes. And I don't know,
just click over
like,
anything.
I don't think girls have. I don't think you might have that ability, but I guess obviously alcohol was a very big factor because I was drunk.
Yeah.
I think
drunk,
you're also meeting you in real life. You're also an incredibly personable person and just easygoing and like and just like a not saying this just to like get up your ass or anything weird, but like you're a very like genuinely nice person, so it'd be easier for you. So like some people do really struggle with the any like social cues and stuff. And one thing I think that's really I saw like a study about how guys and girls make friends, and guys very often make friends through play. So you're either on a sporting team with mates, or you go and shoot some hoops with mates, or even watch games like with mates. So I think that medium is there, and like without it being like super weird, when we went to PAX, it was really cool that we all went to the zoo first, because it can be really awkward if you just meet people that you've never met in real life for the first time, and you're just like, I don't know, like sitting around at the airport and chatting. But if you got like somewhere to go, to something to eat, there's like a medium for the interaction to take place that takes a lot of social pressure off. And
100%.
I can get behind that as well.
And like, how do you get to the stage where you talk to someone who you're friends with, like on Messenger, like every day sort of thing? You exchange some messages and then you just randomly hang out together. How do you get to that stage? I've never been at that stage with anyone in my entire life. Like a best friend, I've never had a best friend.
I think
I've had a
it's just
couple,
like,
close friends that you hang out and then you hang out with the other person at the same time. But I've never had like that other person that you hang out and you have emotional support with, and that kind of thing. I've never had that. I don't understand how people do that. It's just
I think it's a slow build. Obviously, like quite a lot of the relationships that I have
100%.
that are like that, where I can actually rely upon them, or literally we can. Like I've got a good mate that I can literally just sit. We can sit on the couch together. We can be in the room doing completely separate things for like hours and hours on end, not even interacting with each other, and it's not awkward. And we don't live together, like, and it's not awkward. So I've got a friend like that, and like, it's a slow build, we weren't always like that. It wasn't like an instant, oh man, we're so comfortable. Like, hey, come around my house and like, just chill, It was a slow build. And like, it starts off really slow. It starts off with like that you have to have something there that you're doing. You know, we have to be going to the beach. We have to be going out to get food. We have to be going to see a movie. We have to be, you know, it's kind of, it's similar to dating someone. It's that same like slow trickle, you know, you like, you start off by like messaging them for the first time, you know, and like, then you call them for the first time. And then you when you're dating, you always have to be doing activities, you know.
You do personal things together, so like
but then
make a group
eventually
activity, you just go hang out with them, you just go and do things,
and then eventually that comfort level raises. However, and this is different to that kind of, if it's a sexual relationship or like someone that you're actually dating, this is how it differs. Someone always has to be the one that makes the first move when it comes to like making it personal. But and that's, it's super hard and it's super awkward to like ask someone to listen to your problems. And it's so, you've really got to but once you've really got to be confident, or like find that confidence
It's
within
so
yourself
scary.
to be
It's literally like asking someone to marry you, like as you said, like it's building a
100%.
relationship.
It's terrifying,
because
but
you open up personally.
once and like usually like if you're getting comfortable with someone and like really comfortable to the point where you can kind of like, you're hanging out and you're not necessarily doing activities, then you can like, I've been like, usually it's me. Usually I'm like, look, like I'm not having the best day. Do you mind if I like vent to you, you know? And like once you break that, once someone breaks that, it's like acceptable. Then they reciprocate, you know, you reciprocate, like it just and
your turn, my turn,
and that just deepens the relationship further, you know. And that's how I feel like that's how I got to the point with all of my like best friends, for lack of a better word. You know,
and
you're not supposed to terrifying and it's difficult.
And you're not supposed to have like a million of them as well. Like those friends are they're not rare, but they're far from like fair few of them, because like my friend group, maybe 4 or 5 people. The people that I would actually talk to about my problems, 4 or 5 people. My extended friend group that I just talk to and play games with, like, you know, hundreds. I just go through Twitch and, you know, Discord and like that. I can talk to anyone. But the people that I'd actually ring, maybe 2 or 3 people. Like it's 100%. Not going to be, you know, you're not going to have to worry because, oh, I haven't made friends with anyone. It's just like, you know, it takes time, and you're going to find someone that actually just does the same thing back to you over and over again. And it's like a process. It isn't like overnight that you're going to be talking about like feelings and stuff like that. It's going to be like a couple of my instances have been like tragedy. So one of my good friends, she was like nearly 14. She died of cancer. I cried in the Discord with my friends because I found out as that happened, and that like kind of bonded everyone at that single moment. So like that is how one way like I've made like deep connections with friends, but it takes time. It's like repetitive as well. You got to keep doing it. You can't be like, oh, I've talked to you this week, I'm gonna wait till next week to talk to you. It's just like every other day you can talk to this person.
Something that I'm really bad at is when I get to a certain point with friends, I almost lock them in, and I'm like, all right, that like work's gonna be my friend, and I don't put in a good amount of like time or effort to cultivate friendships often. And it's with like also with like my parents and like family and that kind of thing. And I'm just like, they're always gonna be here for me. They're always gonna love me. I'll just like, you know, hang with, and I like keep meeting new people, and I love meeting new people and more friends. But like once I've like locked someone in, I'm like, they're my friend. And
it's like if you're playing a game, you just like unlocked an achievement, like, that's always going to be there now.
Friend status. Yeah.
Like, as you asked Kat, like as you like, the question was like, do we do it every day? Like I've got my best mate, and he lives in Canada at the moment, and I'll speak to him maybe like once every 3 months. He's gone for a year now. He's still my best mate in the world, but like I don't get to see him at all, probably for like a week or 2. But even that, like you don't have that need to talk to him, but you know for a fact, regardless of when it is, what time it is, where you are, you can send them a message, you know, for the fact that they'll respond the next morning. But woke, like he definitely touched on it, where it's a relationship. Like when I first met him, I hated the bloke. Like he was the one kid who kept like bullying me. Like he was my biggest bully and my first ever bully when I moved to Australia, like in year 7. Like he kept bullying me, and I hated him for that. But that's him because he had a horrific childhood, and he was taking that on me. And the only reason we became friends is because my best friend at the time, he was best friends with that kid, with Daniel. And then Thomas left us to go to another school, and I was like, well, shit, like I don't know anyone else. I only know my best friend's friend. So I guess we're just gonna have to become friends now. And then that led to us becoming even better friends than they were. And it's just like, it's the weirdest thing.
I was like a similar situation. Like one of one of my like people that I would consider like a best friend, when we first met each other, it was like I had moved over to Sydney, and first day on school, the teacher that was like walking to me to my first class to show me around was like, "Oh, this guy, hey, sorry, this guy's new. He's in your year. Do you mind showing him around?" And that first year, he hated me and I hated him, and like, but our relationship didn't develop out of that like bullying hatred. It was like we had quite a lot in common, and that's how we developed our relationship. But Kat, in answer to your question, it's not like, I don't think it's something you need to be like overly stressed about. Like I'm almost 30 years old, and I've only got like 2 people that I would consider in that like kind of bracket of like people that I would like share anything and everything with. You know what I mean? So like don't worry about the fact that you don't necessarily have like someone like that, like it comes, you meet people like, and I think that is actually a good thing about online interactions, is that you're broadening your scope of people that you interact with to try to like, potentially you might find those people online,
Yeah.
And that's more likely as well, because you can open yourself up to that as well. It's where, because you meet so many people, and like it comes to that thing again, like making that first connection, taking that first step, as you said, Woke. It's like, that's the scariest shit in the world. It's because if it goes south, that's like at least a year, 2 years of you're invested into your best friend that you see as your best friend. But if they don't respond in the same way, like they had a bad day, and you ask them to be there for you, like in your worst times, and they can't be there at that point in time, then you'll feel like absolute crap. But you have to take that leap, because when anything that you do, you have to get like to put the sacrifice to get the reward. Like even in like, again, like touching on like the marriage subject, because that's how I see like your best friendship. Is like, in order for you, like when they say propose, you have to take 3 months salary, because that is seen as a significant sacrifice. Because in the primal times, like when you go to offer yourselves to someone, it has to be a sacrifice for you personally, in order for them to accept it. Because if any bloke can just propose to someone or propose to a person, then it's like there's no significance behind it. But if it's a genuine sacrifice and you're opening yourself up personally to that person, and they can now take that, turn it around, and tease you about it for the rest of your life, like you're opening yourself up to that. You have to take that sacrifice to build that personal connection, which is like everlasting, in my opinion. Yeah. It's a respect that gets formed around that.
I think that I thought this before, but I think it's interesting about when you're making friends that like, I think Kat, you said that I think you said it was like a lot of fitting in. I think you said, and I definitely, so in high school especially, and not even in, like towards the latter years of high school, but then into my group of friends that was like kind of coming out of school, and church. I was attending church at the time. And that group of friends, there was someone in that group of friends that bullied me like incessantly, and we really, really disliked each other, and I tolerated that and I put up with it because I really, really was really good friends with everybody else in that group. And I think that's like something to be like spoken about, is like those situations where you have a really good group of friends, but that doesn't, just because you've got like a really good group of friends doesn't mean that you're friends with every single person in that group. There's going to be people in the groups that you don't get along with. Like, for example, like me, Fresh Porkins, I don't really like Porkins that much, but he's like a part of the group.
Wait, you said you don't really like Porkins very much.
Oh, wait. Are we live? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That was so straight-faced. That's
yeah, sorry.
That's also a good segue into like, I mean, the way that you delivered that. I think that humor is really, really, really useful in both building friendships and also building relationships. It's been fairly through like surveys and whatever. It's been pretty proven that a lot of people look to be able to laugh with their partner, which totally makes sense. It's like one of the most joyful things you can do in life. And some jokes sometimes people are really bad at knowing when to joke or how to joke when you initially meet someone, or where it's appropriate to joke and tease people. And kids are also pretty bad at it. But like things like straight face sarcasm, we all obviously know each other really well, so it's like, well, not really well, but well enough that Woke can do that, and we're like, and it's good. But when you first meet someone, stuff like that can be like really awkward and really off-putting. Some people who are just, and they're like, oh, I'm just sarcastic, that's what I do. But they don't want to.
That was literally
change
me.
that.
I was just like, oh fuck, do you really just like? Do you just like call someone out?
Whoa. I should know better. Yeah, Darren Woke, poor social skills. Nah,
whoops, didn't
and
read
then
the
there's
room.
like
That's what happens when you work in retail.
then there's like self deprecation, I guess you call it, the humor where you like
That's
make fun of
massive,
yourself,
man.
which
Today's
is
society.
like, it can be like really, really good, and it can make people really comfortable as well, especially if you share things about yourself that are maybe a bit make you a bit vulnerable, but also at the same time, if you do it too much, it can be like a bit of an awkward thing, and like,
if you do it too much, or if you take it too far as well, like if it's something that like
to get real with it, like,
you're self-deprecating, but actually you shouldn't be. You can't self-deprecate yourself
about
about things that you actually are upset about.
Yes, totally. Because if for example I was like haha, yeah, like I'm a ranger, haha, you know, like but I'm actually really sensitive about my ranger. What I'm doing is I'm giving the signal to people that this is something that I'm okay joking about myself. And I find it funny, and I don't mind it. It's kind of something that you can rib me about, you know, like. But then if someone ribbed me, and then the next day they were like, "Oh, you filthy ranger," you know, and I was like, internally, I was like, "Oh my god, like, well, fuck, he's calling me ranger now," you know, like that. That's, you're just setting yourself up for failure. It's exactly the same for teasing as well, and teasing's really important, especially amongst guys. But if you pick certain traits that they are actually, that's at least borderline of like they might be insecure about it, that's not a good way to do it. So like Law, for example, is like incredible at Fortnite. It's okay to call him a bot because he's clearly not a bot, and it's and that's funny. And like, I mean, it shouldn't be insecure about his Fortnite skills because he's really, really good at it. So it's like there's certain things that, and like maybe if a girl was like really tall, I wouldn't start teasing her about being tall because that could possibly be something she's insecure about.
It's
things
different.
like
Like as you just touched on there, work. Like if you make a joke about it, and then everyone else sees it, that's okay for you to joke about it now as well. Like a good mate of mine, at first when I first met him, like he made a joke about him. What was it? Is someone knocked on the door? He went to open the door, and there was no one there. It was like, oh, it looks like my dad knocked, because his dad walked out on him when he was like 5 years old. So like he lost his dad at a very young age, and then he would always take the piss at like his dad not being there and like missing dad jokes essentially. That was his way of communicating, like, oh crap, like I actually care about this. So he never like made that aware to us. Then we would take the piss as well, and then it would actually hurt him, but then he couldn't communicate it.
That's
that's how he showed that he's hurting inside by taking the piss.
No, 100%, and that's the exact situation I'm talking about. And Fresh is touching on that. Like the whole like joking is so important, but you need to there's still depth and way to use it, and like a complicated system around how it works in social settings. And like it's so important to know the rules, or not necessarily know the rules, but like do the right things. Otherwise you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. Or and teasing, I mean, we've touched on the teasing quite a bit, but I
also think it's important with if you can gauge, and this might come across the wrong way, but if you can gauge where people are at in terms of social status, so maybe if people are younger than you, or maybe if you already know that they're less secure in a group than you, might not be appropriate to like diss them or tease them initially. It's more appropriate to be building them up in a funny way or something like that. As opposed to people who are already friends, or they're even on a higher social status than you, totally can be appropriate to tease
everyone
them.
is going to be different. Like you can't you use the same formula on each people.
That's something that I've definitely learned that from streaming. Initially when I got into it, the way that like I interact with my friends, and like I felt like I was becoming friendly with quite a lot of the people that were showing up to my stream, or that I was engaging with in Fresh's stream. And the way that I interact with my friends is, you know, a bit of teasing, a bit of bullying, but there is that disconnect that quite often they're a bit younger than me. They're also like see me as like a bit of like a personality, or like someone on.
There's only one streamer.
You know, there's only one streamer, everybody else is in chat, you know, so there's definitely like a power level indifference kind of thing, I guess you would
different
say.
like, situation, different social
you know,
status.
and it actually took me a while to realize that, hey, it's actually not okay, or like it's probably not the best idea for me to be ribbing or like teasing people, even though, you know, like usually if we were just normal friends in real life, I think that they could probably handle it. But because of the differences in like the situation, it's not okay for me to doing it, and I kind of like stopped doing it as much.
Yep.
Yeah. But
Really?
it took me a while. Even me, I think that I'm pretty good at picking up social cues and stuff like that. And it still took me like a good like 2 or 3, 4 months, you know, to like kind of figure that out.
Yep. No. I think everyone here in real life and everyone on this podcast is pretty sociable.
I think
Hate you.
in the podcast questions, I think Frey asked a really good questions.
Oh yeah, let's get should we do one more topic before we get to questions? What are we up? Maybe we can spend 10 minutes talking about maybe one of Louis' topics, and then we'll jump to the questions.
I was quite interested with the frenemies one.
Frenemies?
Yeah.
Okay, so where I work, we're all part-time. We all have kind of like different rosters, and we have to, you know, work with different people, and it's been getting more and more like obvious to me that some of the people that I work with, they're not, like, I wouldn't call them friends. They're people that kind of have the opposite of my kind of requirements for a friend. Like they're not as, like, you know, they laugh at my jokes. They don't find the same things funny as me. They're a bit more forward with some things, or like they're just a bit opposite, and that doesn't sit well. But I can't not talk to them, or I can't not deal with them, because they're a coworker. I have to actually interact with these people. And it is everywhere. I feel like there's people that you can't avoid, that you have to talk to, and there's certain things that I feel like you can do to avoid having these awkward confrontations. Because like at one stage of my life, that's all good. At one stage of my life, I had an argument with a coworker. That coworker just quit, like 100% quit.
Wow.
Because they couldn't handle the pressure, and I felt bad because I was a bit socially stronger than him, I guess, in understanding that my argument was based on purely professional. I didn't want to deal with him, so I told him to his face, "You need to stop, being an idiot." And he couldn't handle it, and he quit. And I felt bad because now he was looking for another job. He could have kept it if I just kept my mouth shut, kind of thing. And so that's why I'm saying, like, dealing with frenemies is, they're friends, but they're not really. Like, you got to treat them like with respect to a certain extent. And you got to make sure that the people that you're working around aren't outcasted, or they're not excluded and stuff like that.
Yeah. This kind of, I mean, it delves into a little bit of like what I was talking in that, like, there's different social situations, or like different social locations that have different rules. Like
exactly,
work is a place where, and it's similar. It's quite a lot of workplaces are similar to like schoolyards, where it's like you can't avoid these people. You're not friends with them. You're just like in the same place together, communally trying to like achieve goals. You know what I mean? And like,
and we're trying to survive.
trying to survive, trying to earn a buck. And it's similar to school. You need to do that kind of like fit in, just apply, or be nice to everybody, or like, you know what I mean? Just because you're never going to be able to not be there together unless one of you quits. You know what I mean? And obviously you had that situation where like you feel like someone quit because of you.
It was literally the next day. The next day that I got a message from my manager saying, "Hey, what did you say to this person? Because they've handed in their 2 weeks." And I was just like, "Oh, I just told him he shouldn't do this one thing that is really annoying." And they go, "Oh, he told me that you like got angry at him for blah blah blah." I'm like, "Well, I did, because it was annoying." Like, there wasn't like a scientific formula to it. I just said to him straight up, "You shouldn't be doing that," and he just couldn't handle it and crumbled.
Yeah,
that's an off, mate.
I still think that even in those situations, there's definitely room to be setting standards and boundaries, and being like, "Hey, look, I don't like what you're doing," but it's all about the way that it's done as well. Like,
I definitely did it the wrong way because he quit. Like, obviously that would have been like the last thing. So I've learned from then.
I wrote down something as well that kind of ties into this as well. I was like, the treat, in quotation marks, the treat others as you would like to be treated problem. And what I was kind of going with there is like, how people always say that, like, treat people how you would like to be treated.
Yeah.
And
some people
the
don't
golden rule.
do that as you, like, at all.
People don't do that like you do it as well. But then also I found that there's heaps of people out there that actually are fine with being treated a certain way. And I came across this. I really like it when people are very direct with me, you know, and like and are very open and honest, even to the brutal extreme where they're like, hey man, you were shit. You know, like that was shit of you to do. Like, and I really dislike you for it, you know, and I'd be like, oh, cool. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
But if I was to apply that to how I dealt with other people, and there have been times where I've been like, okay, well, I'm fine with people being direct with me, so I'm just going to be direct with everybody. And the amount of problems that it caused was just like extreme, you know. And so it's a bit of a problem. And I think really a better piece of advice for people would be like, treat everybody like be as nice as possible to everybody that you come across, you know, rather than like treat people how you like to be treated. That's what I was kind of getting with that. And it kind of ties into like obviously schoolyards and workplace social environments where it's like, man, treat everybody with as much respect as you possibly can give them, even if they're the worst person in the world and you hate their guts, you know. Touching back on as well, my group of friends that was like coming out of school, and there was that guy in that group that that bullied me quite a bit, and we really disliked each other. We had a conversation where I was like, look, like, you don't like me, I don't like you, let's stop interacting, but we can still be around each other and be civil, but like, just don't do anything beyond that. And like, we kind of came to a mutual agreement. And so even though we like intensely disliked each other, because we both had lots of mutual friends and we hung out all the time together with other people there, we kind of just didn't interact with each other, or if we did have to, it was like incredibly civil. And there was actually a couple of times where like my group of friends thought it'd be really funny to like put us in a situation where we had to drive together, you know, and like we shared a car together and we made small talk the whole time about God knows what, I can't even remember. But it was because we'd already had that conversation about like, hey, cool, like we are just going to be civil from now on, you know, but like, don't expect anything more than that. And you don't fucking bully me.
This is really interesting.
And in saying that, that could only be an upside to getting to know each other if you're on a like a level playing field. So you know your intentions of each other. Like you know that you not hate each other, but you know you don't want to like be friends with them after a car ride. You know, who knows what could happen after you talk and find out like what makes you tick and what, you know, what kind of things you can do to change. And like that's honestly like the best way to go around it is just talk to people. Like there's no other way.
100%.
We should get into some questions, because I think a couple of questions are also like some of your points about relationship work kind of touched on in the viewer questions. So guys, exclamation mark question in the chat if you'd like to add a question in. In the Discord there's a channel called Podcast Questions where we've got like, we've got like 10. Okay, so maybe no one else had anymore, but you can if you want. First up, Keely asked, do we think kids that never experience, this is a great question, never experience bullying and conflict have better or worse social skills? And we kind of touched on that. Worse?
Yeah, definitely.
I think
develop that.
I think it can go both ways.
Yeah.
All right. So
totally.
like if you have someone that's been like intensely bullied to the point of like developing mental health issues, then it can be extremely detrimental. But I do think that a certain level of bullying and teasing and ribbing gives people helps them develop who they are and find the confidence in themselves sometimes. And
especially if they're taught how to deal with it properly as well.
Yes. And that, I think that's the big clincher is they need to be taught how to deal with it, and it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be almost facilitated around adults.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than left to just being like in the schoolyard, just with people, you know.
You'd never really say you like set up kids to like bully other ones. So that wouldn't really.
No. I'm not saying like facilitated in that way.
Yeah.
Free bullying.
If it happens, they need to go to an adult or go to a parent or whatever that they trust and get advice and get from the point where it starts happening, learn how to manage it from like an adult perspective, rather than just trying to deal with it themselves.
Okay. Any other points on that, or should we move to the next question?
I like that. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Okay, so Bray asks, how do you talk to girls in particular? Can Fly give me advice on how to get international gamer grills? International
for those of
gamer
you
grills.
for those of you
I
that
need
don't
to
know,
this.
Fly
I need to
and
get myself an international girlfriend.
Fly and Cat are
Excuse
a
me?
couple.
They're a couple.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
confirm.
Just,
And they
just
met
to give a bit of
online.
context to that question. And they
Social
met online.
skills.
Yeah.
Minecraft boyfriend and
To
To
girlfriend.
be honest,
and
I would
Minecraft.
love to hear how to do that.
Yeah,
But
me
I'm
too.
probably gonna go ask Cat actually, not Fly, because I know that Fly's got no game
Wait,
at all.
no. I
How
think
do
it
you
just
know?
comes.
What did he try it on you before, Cat?
Cat made the first move, so like.
Oh, hey.
Do elaborate. Do elaborate.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I think it just comes naturally, especially these days. It's very hard to just put the smooth moves on and drop a pickup line, especially these days. But you just gotta let it come naturally. I think because me and Cat were friends for quite a long time. Well, not quite a long. Yeah, a decent amount of time before.
Who
I have
slid
a question
who
for
slid
you,
into the
Flies.
DMs first? Who was the first one to slide into the DMs?
I think it was me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because we started, so we found a common interest,
I
which
knew it.
was Minecraft.
Yeah.
And we just played Minecraft like hours and hours together. And
Yeah.
it just, at one point, if we didn't even realize, at one point we weren't in a public Discord and we were like in our, in our own Discord and we're playing Minecraft. Like, we weren't talking about we weren't talking about Minecraft when we're doing there was nothing weird happening, like as in like you'd expect like sliding into DMs, straight away relationship, that's the goal. But it was literally it was just about Minecraft, and then suddenly we're like, wait, we like each other,
Can I ask, was the
You know-
first time that you saw Fly, when was that? Like, as in his video camera? Was it on a podcast?
It was
It was podcast.
podcast.
It was podcast. All right, all right, work.
We
did it. We did it.
We claim credit.
She
I'm
saw
claiming credit
him
right
and she
here, right
was
now.
like,
I give
look at
credit
that
to Jordan's
face.
Minecraft server.
Yeah, well. That
I'm gonna give credit to
cultivated
it.
the relationship.
Secondary credit.
But you know what? You hear Fly's
Executive
voice and you're like,
producer,
ugly boy. And then you see him and you're like, oh, here we go.
Oh. I mean, I slid into his DMs after I.
Yeah, most of us
First
did
time.
after podcasts. What were you going to ask,
How
Spicy,
good
as
of
well?
you. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to touch a little bit on.
So you
Following
cut
off
out a
his
lot. Then
question.
you want to touch a little bit
sorry.
on.
I wanted to touch on the whole relationship thing a little bit when it comes to socializing. Do you mind if we roll into that a little bit instead of going on to the next question?
That's what
for
I
a bit?
meant for. Yeah, this question kind of goes into it.
I wanted especially to touch on sliding into DMs. Just so you guys know, I put sexual relationships because I wasn't sure actually how to word it.
Yeah.
If you know, do you guys know, like you can't be like how do you word that?
Like
You don't want to be a friend. You want to be more than friends with this person. Like
Yeah,
it's
that kind of
it's
thing.
not
Yeah,
just going to be like
intimate,
platonic.
exclusive,
It's going to be
intimate.
Intimate.
Why,
Yeah, sweet.
why are you making it so weird? It's intimate.
Intimate. Well, I was like trying to think of the word, and I lived blanking for the last couple of days trying to think of the word. But so that's why the sexual is in bracket.
It's been a while for you, we know.
Oh.
Cat, that's actually
True.
Bullying, dude.
that's the line, man. That's the line.
That's the line.
But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about sliding into DMs because I know that like especially women struggle with this so much online that it's like almost ungodly. Literally the amount of, I would say almost not all of them, 90% of the girls that follow or follow on Twitter at some point have done a post about people being weird in their DMs, like guys being weird in their DMs. Is there like an appropriate way to do that, or is it kind of one of those things where it's just like it's actually so far outside of the social, like it's not socially legitimate to do that at all? It's not the way to meet women, is sliding into DMs, which I personally am more about. Like I think that I go down the line more of like you should not be trying to meet women in that way. It's weird.
Yeah,
It
it's
depends on
respect.
where you're from. Yeah.
Yeah, it's respect for me.
I think personally, girls that do make posts like this, I suppose they have a lot of followers. I don't know if they do work or not, but they have a lot of time on that website, and they know that they're big on that website. So obviously they have their standards pretty high, and if you don't meet their expectations, they obviously shut you down and think you're weird straight away.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's literally it. If you don't look the way, because all they have is a picture of them.
Yeah.
They don't, and then that one line they send you. You can be as nice as you want. The like the smoothest you want, as long as you don't, look the part, because people like that are literally only looks. Like,
Yeah.
that's
the
my
first time I've
experience.
ever heard that kind of like
Yeah.
the way that things go, and that like sheds a whole new light. Because sometimes you think, oh, like, these guys are all just like so weird and stuff like that. But then you look at,
Yeah.
if they post a screenshot of the message, like, hey, how's your day? Hey, hope you're having a good time. It's just like,
Yeah.
she
Okay.
wants like more than anyone can give, because
Yeah.
these people aren't.
Yeah.
Okay,
to
and
her.
I'm not necessarily talking about sliding into DMs like that. I like because obviously if you're online and you're starting to, there's some sort of relationship there. Like, it's not just
Yeah.
like completely out of the blue. Like, they follow you or they've interacted with you a little bit on Twitch or something like that. Sending someone a message being like, "Hey, how are you?" Like, whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like,
No,
inherently
there
wrong with
isn't.
that. But I
No.
think that there is like a great amount of people that don't slide into your DMs like that. They slide into DMs like with a dick pic, or they
Yeah.
slide into your DMs
Oh,
with
that's
like
just
Everyone
slide into
does
the
that.
DMs
That's
with
just
slide into the
that-
DMs
that
with
is
like
just globally
with
known
like
as like the wrong
baby
move.
baby, I
Like,
want to dick you down or
Actually,
something like that.
it totally
Makes
baffles
no
my
sense.
mind
Why
that people
some
be
part-
like, bang, and then do they really think like girls in oh my goodness?
Because there's no
Give me it.
there's no person. It's complete. You're completely removed from it being
Yeah.
a personal thing. 'Cause you can't do that in public. Like, and they know that for a fact. But that entire like immorality of it is removed. But then
Yeah.
I've got like two
So-
topics, not like two ways to address that. There's like
I have a very contrasting story though.
Go on, sorry.
My
Go on.
friend got like, there's a dating app called Hinge, and she's on it, and she got a message from someone that literally said 100% would rail, and she laughed at that. She laughed at that. She was just like, oh, ha ha ha, that's so funny,
Yeah.
because she found the guy attractive. That's how it worked. We can go all the way back
Yeah.
to treat others how you'd like to be treated. That she found that funny. She found that
Yeah.
acceptable. She could send that to anyone else. They'd find it funny. Blah blah blah.
Mm.
Like, they went on a date after he said that. So it's
Yeah.
purely like, if you can hack it. Like, if you can take that kind of
Yeah.
banter, then sure, go ahead. But some
You've
people,
got
like,
that
you never know.
personality, yeah.
You
Yeah.
never know what people are going to accept as a
true.
slide.
I guess if you're
Well, there's,
super
like,
attractive, you can get away
You got
with
the
anything.
psychological aspect of it all. Like my good mate, like his brother, he's meeting his girlfriend at the moment. He's 18 now, I think, and she lives in Melbourne. She sent him a random like friend request. I don't even think they have a mutual friend, like on Facebook. It's so sus because like in our generation, like you can't send someone just a DM. Like I can't even fathom like building
Being
a connection
catfished.
like that. But like
Mhm.
he legit, she sent him a message, added him on Facebook. He's like 4 years older than him as well, which just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, they have been talking for like 2 years now, and then she's flying over to actually talk to them. They've done like face chats and stuff. So it's not catfish, it's not complete bullshit, which makes no sense to me. Like, how did she even know like he's the one that she wanted to talk to out of everyone? And he's also 4 years younger than her and still in high school when she sent him a message, when she's like 22 years old. Like, what the hell is happening? But then,
Yeah.
like, it comes down to like, as Cal was suggesting, like the physical aspect. And like, if you speak to someone, especially from a female perspective, they analyze you if that's in person or over the internet. The immediate biological like way that it's processed is like, can I trust this person? Is he safe? Is he going to do any harm? And like where you guys met online playing Minecraft, you were able to see the fly. Like he's a good bloke. He's not
He's playing
throwing his little
Minecraft.
papa down into the lava. Like he's not being destructive in game. You didn't kill the poor doggo, so you're like, oh, he's a good bloke.
Wait, no, that's you don't know. You don't know.
No, but like you get to see, like you get to meet him as a person. You get to like drop down your barriers, like okay, he's a good person, and then you can conceive as much as you can. But if someone just comes into your chat immediately, or like the first time I'm at work, I can't just walk up and then start punching him or something. Like anyone is going to assess, like, is this person safe? Can I trust him? Can I let him in closer to me? And then it's different because even from females, like males are predominantly higher than you, like they're taller than you, so we're more intimidating and we're physically stronger just biologically. So there's a lot more of assessment like primitively that goes back to that, where like you have to make sure like, are we a good person? Are we there to be good and take care, or are we there to just be terrible and
So,
like
so
to
what you're
destroy?
saying is that you want that it's it's not your chance of success sliding into someone's DMs with like a brutal message or whatever
Yeah.
is really low, and it's better to just try to be friendly and be friends.
Yeah.
Right?
That's how I would go about it. I would never
reckon.
ever send someone, because like that's their first impression of you as well. If you
Yeah.
send them a dick pic, or if you send some nasty like opening line,
Yeah.
when they say, "Oh yeah, no, like when we met, he sent me like a dick pic," like that doesn't sound good. Like, in
Yeah.
my opinion, I wouldn't like my future girlfriend to be, "Hey, we met because I liked your penis." Like that doesn't that doesn't like real sit with me.
How'd you meet mum and dad? Oh, yeah, I like
Yeah,
what you
but-
mean.
oh, he had a
Yeah.
He
sweet-
sent me a dick pic.
Yeah,
You know, guys setting a
So-
dick pic to someone they're gonna marry.
no. There's definitely like a
Wow.
line where like obviously that stuff can come because you find a connection and then you get to that point, but from like you can't skip all the the finding out favorite color, finding out what animal you like, finding out if you're free next Tuesday, blah blah blah. Like all that kind of stuff needs to come before like
The
a
small
lot
things
of
are
things.
important. They're very, very important. Yeah.
100%. And this kind of drags into the other thing that I put there, intimate relationships. Is I'm calling it the friend zone fallacy. And like the amount of times, especially as a dude, it's like it's vilified being in a girl's friend zone. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, like if she's like a good friend of yours, then like there's no chance of anything sexual happening there. And I don't think that's true at all. I think
Yeah.
that it's like that you should be aiming for that first.
I think
then-
you I disagree, because I think you should be friendly, definitely. But I think that there is, and you maybe Kat can correct me if you're wrong, but there's a point where I feel like maybe Kat and Fly had relatively flirtatious like banter going on probably a lot of the time, and I think you have to keep it's almost like an option, like you could be a dating option, or you can fall into this friend option. Like girls who are my friends have told me
like
this.
keep up to date. You got to keep them like clued in that you're not just gonna like step back kind of thing. You got to like
no, because I'm not saying that like I'm not saying that you are like from the very get-go wanting to make a move. I'm not saying, because like that doesn't always happen. It's not that you like meet someone all the time and you go, oh my god, I'm instantly attracted to them, I want to date this person right now. But like sometimes you like are I've been friends with girls for like 10 plus years before like then I was like we kind of
I think that's rare.
and
I think that's very rare.
Real? Okay, all right.
I think a lot of the time you kind of get into like the friend zone, or you can be considered, and it comes down to a little bit of so I mean, when I was dating and like when I met my wife even I gave off a different kind of presence of like confidence, and I'm like way cooler than I actually am, and played it up and whatever. But because I remember like literally like 3 months after we were dating, she was like, man, I really totally thought you were way cooler than this. And I was like, gotcha.
Too late.
I remember where we were when she said that too, and I was like, yep, gotcha. But now like the relationship that we have, I like sacrifice a lot of different things for her, and I wouldn't not that I wouldn't like be a nice guy if I was trying to date her, but I wouldn't come across as so subservient as our relationship changes over the years, if you know what I mean. Because I think if you lose that air of confidence and being like a person who can provide security and be a leader or whatever, a lot of the time you can fall into a different kind of mindset for the girls. Maybe you can correct me, Kat. I don't know.
Before, where a girl has actually said to me, "No, you've been a friend for too long."
Yeah.
Wow.
Like 100%. She straight up said it, and I was just like, because I was like, still friends with her. She'd like broken up and gotten with like 2 or 3 different boyfriends over 2 or 3 years, and you're there by her side, like being the white knight, quote unquote, helping her out. But I'd always like make sexual jokes and make like a joke about us being together, or like whenever we'd go out shopping or something like that, I'd always pretend to hold her hand, like, oh, you gotta pretend to be my boyfriend, we're out public kind of thing, like obviously keeping the joke in the air kind of thing, like that we could be together.
But was that your intention? Like, was your intention to become a part, like an item one day, or was that just
it was purely just like the way that I thought a conversation could go, like, hey, maybe if we started like pretending to be funny, blah blah blah, it could get somewhere. And yes, I did probably want to date the person at the time, but after a year and a half of like waiting, you're like, oh well, maybe there's not much to it. So you go straight up and you like tell her like, oh, so what do you reckon, like, do you reckon we could work, kind of thing. Like, you obviously say it in a more pleasing manner than, hey, let's date or something like that. And she just straight up said, no, you've been my friend for too long, I don't think we can. And that just like solidified the friendship, the friend zone kind of thing. But then like other cases, I haven't talked to these people at all. Then we meet up like ages ago. I've known them for like 4 or 5 years, have good chats, and then one night we got really drunk, we got together, and then now that we're a thing after that, because we just had to break that kind of barrier. So it's like, it is a thing in my mind. The friend zone is a thing, but it's different to everyone, because like you might not have the same chances to make the same moves with the people that have different opinions on the friend zone.
Well, that's what I'm kind of getting at, is like, I'm getting to the point now where I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's situational, maybe everybody's different, and every relationship is different. But I've definitely had the experience where it's like, there's no point, there's at no point did I feel ever that like, okay, like I couldn't like make a move if I wanted to. You know what I mean? Like I've definitely had a girl that I was interested. I was like attracted to her, right? But
what was his name?
But I was dating someone at the time, and so it was just not okay. But like that didn't mean that like we were working together and it wasn't okay for us to be friendly, and but it was all platonic and whatever. But then like years and years down the track, like, oh, I'm not with this person anymore, and like we're still friends, and every now and then we're not like besties kind of thing. But like I think that what I was trying to get at is there's no point where you can't try and make a friendship into like an intimate relationship if that's what you want, or at least broach the topic and then potentially be rebuffed. But like that happens anyway if you did it like when you first met, and you're like, oh, I kind of want to do something here, and they're like, no, so like
I agree, but I think with a lot of people you could totally lose your chance, and you could be put into that zone.
It's very I agree with, like, it's rare, but it can happen. It can happen. It's 100% possible to kind of jump from being the friend, and then things happen really quickly, and then you can kind of get out. But in saying that, like I said,
and like Slow literally just said, it's a bit of a gamble. You can mess up the friendship. Like you can if
sometimes too. Like you talk about it, and then they kind of like
and that's
they swerve you big time, and they kind of like don't speak to you, and then you start like losing contact because you've been too keen after they've given you an answer that you may or may not have accepted.
I
feel like I was like, go on, sorry.
I was just gonna say, especially when you're younger, I feel like in high school, like when I was attracted to a friend, just the consequences if it didn't go well was a massive turn off. It was just, a lot of the time it just wasn't worth it. Never is.
Totally.
I get that. I want to say, like, Fresh might be able to touch on this as well, but like with my partner, especially now, we've been together for like 2 years, and you not necessarily friends zone, but your intentions are different. Like you have completely different intentions, and even when meeting my partner, I just came out of a massive relationship. I was convinced this is the one person for me. Didn't end well at all. In then like 6 months, it was a very quick relationship, and it was just like that little roller coaster. And then when I met my partner now, there was no intention of being like any more than a friend. It was just like, oh, you're another person that's in my life, and you have a good influence on me and wanting me to do more. There was no sexual attraction. There was none of like, I want to achieve this with you. And then you don't see it as a friend zone. You stop seeing it as like, okay, there's a relationship here. It's just someone that's there. You remove the sex in a sense, especially now, even now, like all my friends and people that I interact with now, you don't consider that as, okay, this is a viable option in the future. I might have a relationship with this, or I might have to watch the way I interact, because what if I want something to happen in the future? So that's completely removed when you're in that mindset, regardless if you're in a relationship or not. If you're in that mindset where you see everyone as equal in that sense, where there's no male or female, it's like your friend or you're not a friend. When you just see that and you're not really looking for a partner, that changes as well when like seeing the friend zone, so to say, if that makes sense.
Maybe I've like I don't really the friend zone doesn't apply to me because I'm so attractive. That's probably what I'm experiencing.
I'd sleep with you.
I was just talking about how you're friends with someone with a girl for 10 years.
Well, yeah. I mean,
took you 10 years to.
What can I say?
Trade of mean, keep and keep.
Well, it took 6 years, and
the
then
quest
it grew,
is worth it. 10 years.
Yeah, the loot's gonna be so good after this.
Sorry. Should we get into some more questions?
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Good stuff, guys. So Speedway asks, so I'm 16. I have a question. Do we think high school students should start finding girlfriends to have better social skills or not? Yes, to like better communicate with someone.
I reckon like girlfriends as a friend that's a girl, but not girlfriend as a partner that you want to be with. Because especially in high school, you have no idea what the hell you want to be.
No idea.
Well, the majority of people I've encountered.
Yep.
I'm 23 now. I'm only like generally finding a vague direction of where I want to go. When you're at that age, you want to experiment and find out like, I do like this, I don't like that, but you don't want to go through like the pain of losing someone that means a lot to you. Like, there's a lot of people in high school where I didn't want a girlfriend. I wanted the idea of having a girlfriend to fit into school. And then that sacrificed a very, very good friendship that I had, because I was like, no, you're a very good friend to me. Oh wait, I need a girlfriend because everyone else has a girlfriend. Let's be boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah, and that just didn't end well. So
I like how you clarified that like you should still be aiming to like be friendly and be friends with some girls, because it's really important to not lock yourself into not interacting with women at all, because then you get into this situation where you're kind of getting out of school and you're finding out who you are and you are attracted to people and you might want to get into a relationship then, but you haven't developed the skills, or you're awkward around women or that kind of thing. So I think it's really important to still try to aim for female like friendships.
It's good to know how to be friends with girls as well, and not only try and quest them. That's pretty
well, no matter what type of relationship you have to.
Definitely.
Because and that's an important distinction.
Grow up in, because I know a lot of like kind of preemptive experience is from having like co-ed schools or single sex schools. So I grew up so my whole schooling life I was at an all boys school. So I went to 2 schools, both of them were all boys.
Damn.
I didn't have many female friends. I guess the only ones that I had were family friends and cousins and whatnot. But the majority of the people that I met was after school, and I knew I was behind, because people would you have that anxiety to talk to girls because you've never talked to girls that much before in your life, because you went to school for 12 years and you didn't speak to a single girl while you're at school.
Would you say that kind of stunted you a bit?
Yes, 100%, 100%.
How old are you now, Louis?
I'm only 21. I'm still young. I haven't had a lot of I don't have as much experience as you or work or something like that.
So experienced.
But there's
10 years of experience.
But there's but there was a different kind of way that I would hang around girls. Like when I went to parties and stuff like that at after schools and stuff like that, you'd see all the guys that had girlfriends and had a group of friends that were girls around them, and they would effortlessly talk to them. I'd have one girl come up to me, I'd freak out. I'd be like, oh shit, what do I do? Do I smell bad? What do I do? What do I look at her like? I don't understand. It's so awkward to have that little I don't know, expectation to how they're going to speak to you, because you don't have any other experience. You don't know what they're going to say to you because you have never experienced it. But now out of school, and I guess the person that I am, I can easily talk to most people without having anxiety or having to worry about what they think of me, because I guess it's just the way that I was brought up and the way that I would talk to my mates and stuff like that. It's just kind of transitioned over, and you kind of tweak things when you talk to people.
Would you say that was practicing and experiencing?
Practicing, yes. I talk in the mirror every day. And we're like, hey, babe, what's going on? I don't think I would. I wouldn't call myself like someone that was like super smooth, but the people that I talked to never like, they didn't like, oh, get away from me kind of thing. Like they always accepted me when I'd talk to them, and I'd always like be in a place in the relationship where I could make jokes about them or make jokes with them, and it'd be kind of like acceptable for me to make those jokes.
I think a key part of that, if you're not comfortable, you didn't grow up with a lot of contact of the opposite sex,
Yeah.
is about, feeling the other person's personal space.
Yeah.
Personal space is a
Massively.
huge
Massively.
thing.
Yep.
That's why I never understood as well why people chase after people if they're obviously not interested. That's why I never understood the whole thing, people getting attached to someone who's obviously not interested.
Yeah.
Or like you convincing yourself that eventually they'll like you. But if it's that whole thing, it's if they're physically moving away from you in that
Yeah.
sense. Like if they're moving away from you through text or at a party or something like that, it just
It's because they want
Understand
you're
you.
what's
just
They
gonna
want
get
you.
more creepy and creepier and
Yeah.
creepier. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Even
And
if
that's
you're a
something
girl,
that
I've done when I was like younger. My first boyfriend was actually from from our church, which is really weird. But that was like one of those awkward ass 12-year-old relationships where you don't really hang out and then like,
Yeah.
but you're in your girl and your
Hey,
boy
you're my
groups,
boyfriend now.
and it's like,
my
oh look,
gosh.
it's him over there. You're his
Let's not bring
boyfriend."
them up.
Like, and it's stuff like that, and it's like, I once liked a boy that I wanted to, I wanted to hang out with, and because I saw him walking past my house sometimes, and I know that he like lived down the road,
Yeah.
and like we know each other from because there was the same sex intermediate school. I don't know if you guys know that it's like a school before you
Yeah.
go to high school,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
that I knew him from there sort of thing. So it wasn't a total stranger that lived down the road.
Yeah.
I started messaging him and he kind of just like didn't message back sort of thing. Like I
Yeah.
got really upset because I thought, what's wrong with me, that type of thing.
Mm.
Don't overthink it. Obviously, don't. That's
Yeah.
it's hard to cope with that when you're younger because you haven't been through that.
Yeah.
But don't
Coming-
overthink. Don't
Coming to the
overthink
realization
when
that
other
not,
people don't like you, don't overthink what they think of you. Just
Yeah.
keep moving.
yeah,
That's a hard
coming
thing.
to
Like,
the
go on.
Yeah, you
Sorry. Oh, okay. Go on.
you go. You
I'm-
go.
I'm- so what I wanted to say is like exactly what you're saying there is like, yeah, don't overthink it and don't like compromise your values. That's a
Yeah.
massive thing. Like, know who you are, even though you still don't know until you're older on. Like, you have to get that over experience. But what I would like to just recommend, like I'm massive on reading. I like learning from other people's mistakes. That's a big thing. Like why identify as a person. If you're still there, Speedy, I would recommend a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
Read that
Totally.
now.
Mm.
If it doesn't make sense, read it every year or two. It's like one book I always go back to. It has influenced hundreds of other books. That's always like a new version. So you'll like if that's too in detail, like if it's not really fleshed out, I mean, like it's very big words and like it's like direct and how to do it. If that doesn't make sense, find another one. There's like a million different versions of about it. But
Yep.
that book has like purely just
So
completely
good.
changed who I am as a person. Yeah.
There's one
sorry about
called
that, Rob.
In the
Get back to
Digital
the
Age. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to get back to the question, we all kind of agree that you probably don't know who you are. There are situations where you could be potentially getting a girlfriend, but at that age, you don't really know who you are or where you're probably better not to go for
Yeah.
that. But it is really good for your social skills to aim to be friends with girls and learn how to interact with the opposite
Can be a
sex.
benefit.
Yeah.
I think it's also
Definitely.
good to remember that if when you get into a relationship, you either break up with that person eventually or you end up staying with them for your whole life. There's only two options. And if
Two
you're getting into
outcomes.
relationships just to practice your social skills and you know you're going to break up, might not be such a nice thing to do to girls, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why are you
unless
getting into a
it's
relationship?
like reciprocated, unless
Yeah.
they obviously know, because like
Yeah.
like some of my friends, they like
It's very weird.
they go in like, because we can almost touch into, I wouldn't call this a relationship, but like, like friends with benefits, like relationships that are just for enjoyment and they know they're not going to last, and then that kind of like
The waste.
dissipates. it kind of dissipates. Like in saying that like some relationships like don't last, but that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. You're doing yourself a disservice if you go into any relationship expecting it to end.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah, 100%. But if you know, if like,
Should we
Shall
move on to another question?
All right,
Yeah.
so next one, we got 2 left. First one, B Squad. As streamers like yourselves, how do you deal with the social pressure of being full-time social streamers, and have you felt overwhelmed socially and want to just hide in a cave sometimes? How do you deal with the social pressures you experience day to day? Bit off topic, I know. Sorry, but I thought I'd throw it out there. Yeah.
I mean, it's it's kind of on topic. Yeah. Yeah. I know that I definitely have felt that it is a lot sometimes, and it depends on the stream. It depends on the interactions. Like sometimes it's a lot of social interaction. It's too much for me. But this is the thing: is like everybody's different. You know, you've got introverts and extroverts. Everybody's somewhere on that kind of spectrum of being able to cope with lots and lots of social interactions, or being able to cope with very little before they're drained. And so every streamer will be different, and it always depends on a myriad of things: how many people are in the chat, the types of interactions they're having. So I don't think it's like a rule that you can like lay down for every single streamer and say, it's going to be exactly like this. Like it's every streamer at some point is going to enter into like go and retreat into their cave, you know, because they're overwhelmed or whatever. I think everybody's different, and everybody's different, and it comes and goes. I've definitely had nights where I've been like, I've got off stream and been like, oh man, that was a lot, you know. And then other streams that are like way more intense socially, I've gotten off and been like, woo, damn, like that was, man, I'm pumped, you know. Like so everybody reacts differently, and I don't think there's one that you can apply to anybody with that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Like I can also touch on that as well, where with my stream, I'm still trying to find like what type of streamer I want to be. I've only been doing it for like 7 months, and at first I'm like, I love playing video games. I want to talk to people and play video games with more people. But as I'm going through it, it's the same thing as in high school, where you're trying to find your friend group in that sense. Where in the beginning, I'm like, oh, I see Ninja. I want to be hyper. I want to be interactive and funny and try and be comedic throughout my entire like 4 or 5 hours. But one, that's not my personality. I can't sustain that. It doesn't work. I get tired and I don't enjoy it as much. And it's a massive thing, and it comes down to the thing where you have to become comfortable with the numbers in that sense. So I've completely turned off. I don't know how many viewers I have, whether I have 500 or 0. Like I do not care because I don't see the numbers. Because I don't know about you guys, but back in like school or even like a couple years ago, when you get your text messages, if you wake up in the morning, there's not one message, or like in the afternoon, you didn't get any messages, you valued yourself on that, like, or on Instagram, where you don't get enough likes, or on Snapchat, someone doesn't respond back. Like you need that feedback from someone else. And it's very important for me personally, like on Twitch, to have that self-worth. Like if no one watched me tonight, that's okay. I still had fun. I still enjoyed myself. You have to have that self-worth in yourself. I feel that's very crucial in not just Twitch, but in anything that you do in a social interaction.
Yeah.
But
at the same time, I don't think that we should care, you know, like around whether streamers get worn out or not. Like if they send a message and they say, hey, I'm not going to stream, cool, no problems, man. Like do whatever you need to do. And it's like, it's when people, it's the only problem with that thing in terms of the social interaction there and them getting worn out or whatever is when their viewers potentially get upset with them for not streaming. And if that ever happens, that is like,
they're the people you don't want in your stream, because the people that don't give you your personal space and know that, you know, your life isn't 100% live
about them.
Then those are the people that can, you know, can suffer. They can, you know, they can take, you know, 2 or 3 days without your stream because, you know, they're not.
Kids don't get
they're
that.
not.
All right, why aren't you streaming?
When are you gonna stream? When are you gonna stream? When are you gonna stream?
I honestly really look forward to streaming, and like, because it's like it's like going to like a house and like see all your friends for the day. Like,
it's a community, family.
100%.
And it's the community that you make as well, because I know some people that they like streaming because the community is very grateful. The community like knows, and they want to like, you know, what's going on with them, and they know to like kind of give them the space that they need when they need it. But then I know some people that hate streaming because all the viewers are just really toxic and they just want to do, they just want to make jokes and they just want to play games and like, it's also like, it's like, oh, you need to like take a break. You just need to make it better for yourself sometimes if you have a better community.
Yeah. Cultivate that community.
100%.
Good. All right. Last question. Peer pressure. My friends were sexually active from a young age and people assumed I was too. Lost a lot of friends and got disrespected daily because I was judged on who I hung out with and assumed to be a S word. This was not the case. My friends pressured me every weekend to be sexually active, but my friends pressured me every weekend to be sexually active because I was the only one that had not slept with anyone and was judged for still being a virgin when it wasn't a big deal and people would like me more. This was my limit. I never gave into the pressure. Do you guys think give into peer pressure more? Or do you think guys give into peer pressure more than females?
I think it's
so.
the opposite. Like,
okay.
Feel like for females, they're by nature more emotional. Like they're in touch with their emotional sides, and they can relate to it a lot quicker. So it's easier. And women are like, in my experience, females are like very, very smart and like emotionally. Like if you want to hurt someone, you can hurt them and like scar them for the next like generation or two easily. Well, like boys, like we don't have that mental battle. We don't have that mental capacity to like, I'm gonna mess with this guy to peer pressure him into doing this. The worst we can do is like keep egging him on, and there's enough that do it, then he'll give in. If not, he'll walk away. Where like females are like very smart in the way they very carefully choose their words in manipulating people, and that's my personal experience. So that's probably not for everyone, but no, our personal experience. I'm like, yeah, females are just very carefully worded in the way they put situations in. So you have to have that good environment. You have to know that your friends that are peer pressuring you is for something good, not bad.
I think it depends on personality. It doesn't depend on sex. Definitely does not depend on sex.
That's what I agree with that
I think boys get peer pressure way more than girls because you've got your group of boyfriends, and then you've got like two people and against one person. It's like the boys, and you scream at them, and then you're like, they're.
Has anyone ever heard of Odds On?
yeah.
Oh no, that's so bad. That's so bad.
Peer pressure.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like, well, I've said odds on, so now you need.
You have to do it.
And then that single word that someone said, odds on, like single, like that.
2 words.
It has no backing. There's no like previous like huge story that you have to tell someone. Someone can literally say, odds on you jumping into that pool with your clothes on and your phone in your pocket.
And you have to give odds.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it.
Like you have to do it.
And you say, I'm not doing that. And they say,
go, oh no, I'm just gonna like jump with my $800 phone in the pool. Like it's broken only because someone said odds on. You're like insurance.
And
like, why did you break your phone? He said odds on. I had to.
Like literally, whenever someone said odds to me, I always say, well, I'm not doing that. And then they say too late. I've already said odds. And if for some reason, whenever they say that, I give them a nod. I give them the odds. I literally, and it's weird. It's weird because I don't even think of it as peer pressure.
That's so
But
funny.
like, I give them the odds, and sometimes I'll give them like a ridiculous odds. Like I'll be like,
if it's
like,
some things
like
that you
10
can't
million.
do,
What now? What are you going to say now? I gave you the odds. Boosh. You know. But
that was totally.
I wanted to say, and
someone
said it in
definitely
chat.
Frowned upon.
Someone said it in chat. I think it was, where is it? Kelpet. Whoever questioned this is well done not giving into peer pressure. I want to reiterate that 100%, especially in high school. So like my thing, and this is why I definitely butted heads with a few people, especially people that were probably more likely to bully me, was that I would never, ever be peer pressured into anything. So it was like, and I think that caused me to become the source of a lot of bullying because a lot of bullies didn't like that, like challenge their authority kind of thing, where it's like, oh, well, wait, I can't get this guy to do what I want, like, and
oh dang,
but like it never do something ever that you don't want to do.
I think that
it's okay to give in if it's something that you want to do, and like they can be like, oh, like we made you do it, but like as long as you did it because you wanted to do it, well, I mean, as long as it's harmless, I mean, make your own decisions. Like if it's to commit a crime and you make the decision to commit a crime, then you made the decision,
Yep.
Already won't know there's no free will. Like we talked about this, but I think it's less about personality and more about your support network that you have. So I think you've got a very good family support network and have like an intrinsic personal value and self-worth that comes from that. So you don't need that affirmation from people outside.
Also, I think as well, touching on my family that I'm really good friends with, and I have quite a big family. Even in times when I might not have been gelling with people and had a little bit less of a friendship group outside of my family, I still had a big family that I could hang out with and really enjoyed hanging out with. You know, so I didn't feel the negative connotations of having no friends as much.
Yeah, exactly. When you have that support network at home and you have that worth, it makes a huge difference. And
especially
I think
that's terrible, like to be in that situation. Sorry for Licky, like to put in that situation, especially peer pressure for like eating 2 burgers in like 1 bite. That's one thing. Peer pressure for like a major life decision, like every weekend. That's horrific. Like you do not want to be in that environment.
These band friends,
and that's true because especially with odds on, it's never something like that. It's like, oh yeah, it's never going to be, it's never going to be odds on going and giving your virginity to that dude over there.
It's like a life-changing situation.
Yeah. It's never going to be that.
But
it's
guys
odds on you eating this thing that fell on the floor.
I still think that the pack mentality that guys have is just crazy. Like the difference between what one young boy will do is compared to what 10 young boys will do together is crazy. Like they will commit crimes. They'll odds on commit crimes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Fly, you wanted to say something?
I was just gonna say, I feel like for guys, obviously peer pressure is a lot worse, but also the consequences for the actions after are a lot less.
Yeah, maybe.
Especially for girls, it's a lot.
Quite emotionally.
Girls cop a lot worse. Yeah.
I agree. I feel like potentially the things that you're getting peer pressured into doing are also, or like, I feel like sometimes, especially because of that like joking atmosphere, it sometimes comes from a place of like positive social interactions with guys. Whereas like with girls, quite a lot of the time, I think that it comes from places of like negative social interactions where it's like a negative peer pressure rather than like a positive peer pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I get that.
Potentially.
So instead of it being like a joking around, like, hey, jump in the pool, it's like, hey, I dare you to like message this person something mean. Like it's very basic, but like it revolves around
like emotions and bullying, more than it does for dudes. Yeah.
Do you mind if I just quickly clarify, like I didn't mean to be offensive in the beginning, saying like, because the point I was trying to get across is like, I feel so bad because females, like, they get, in my personal opinion, like they get a lot more peer pressure than guys do. So it's not like they give in more. It's just like there's a lot more of that where guys are like, it's that pack mentality, and then sooner or later they'll start a poker focusing on you. They'll go on to the next person. But like I just feel like I feel for the girls, like they get a lot more. Or in my experience, I just see like it's very harsh for them.
Good clarification.
And I think Kat is, but that's all right. You need online, so you never need to see her again.
Look at her face. She's just like, whatever, woke.
Don't speak for me.
Whatever, mate. All right. Well, that's all our questions, guys. That's all our topics. Awesome. We are a little bit over time, like 20 minutes ish. So shall we start wrapping it up?
That's bullying.
Yeah. So last thing we got to do is rate our beers because we've got back.
Real
beer
quickly.
Review.
Finish mine.
Good.
That was a bad one.
So that wasn't as good as
you did give us a warning, mate. There was no warning.
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere.
You weren't expecting it, so it was pretty good considering that. I
was like,
I'm gonna roll.
You go.
Sorry, I'm gonna roll into mine first. So I had the Four Seasons Lager by Rocky Ridge Brewing Company. So lagers are something that for years and years and years I always just associated with piss, right? Like it was just gross, disgusting beer that I drank because it was always around. Everybody had some, and I just wasn't into it. And I got to a point where I was like, lagers, I hate lagers. And this beer actually, I've had it before, but I wanted to review it, so I got it again. Is the first lager that I've drunk that I've actually like, no word of a lie, loved. Like I love this drink. So the whole idea behind Rocky Ridge, they're like they're adding a few hops and stuff to their beer, to their lagers, and it's a little bit more like fruity and floral, but it's not an ale, it's still a lager. But there's just so much flavor and depth in it that you're drinking it and you're not like, this tastes just like gross. You're drinking it and you're like, there's actually flavors there and there's things coming through and I'm really enjoying it. So I definitely recommend it 100%. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. 4 Seasons Lager, Rocky Ridge. It's a big thumbs up from me.
Nice.
Let's go to the left, Louis.
10 out of 10. Heineken is the best beer I've ever will taste.
Really?
Not changing your mind. I love the taste. I could drink it forever. There's nothing wrong with it. Get around it.
Nice.
Mayo, what were you drinking again?
I don't drink beer because I can't do the taste. But tonight I was having JB, some whiskey. It's pretty cool. So I like it because it said it's been appointed by their late Majesties King George III, King George IV, King William, Queen Victoria, King Edgar.
It's a royal.
The bloody
and
monarchy.
like all this fancy stuff, and it's just like a blended Scotch whiskey of a bunch of old whiskeys mixed together. But it's quite good. It tastes a lot like American honey, like the wild turkey American honey.
American honey is very nice.
Yeah,
That's nice.
Smooth.
Established in 1749, and yeah, definitely rate it. Would recommend.
I thought you said JD before.
Yeah,
and
like
then when
Jack
you started
Daniels.
saying all these like really good things, I'm like, this isn't Jack Daniels.
Did you have it?
No.
Did you just have it on the rocks or?
No. I had it from the Coke.
Yeah,
On the
nice.
rocks, it's a
Should have
bit
been
strong, but
Nice.
yeah, on the Coke.
Cool.
Nice.
You grill cat?
I'm just gonna go with Louis to keep it short. Definitely a beer that I just pick it up from the supermarket and I can just drink it and I don't have to worry about feeling sick or anything like that, or feeling like, you know, of the top beer like that. It's
Full
just
of
got
beer.
a nice
Yeah.
taste to it, and you can definitely drink a lot of it.
Is it
Yeah,
German?
100%.
Heineken?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Hey, cat nose. All right. Good.
Fly.
Okay, so I was drinking the Moke Blonde. So
Blonde.
yeah, it tastes really good. It's like it's got incredible depth of flavor and it's incredibly smooth. But that lasts for about 4 seconds because it's got this horrible aftertaste that lingers, like you've just tongued the floor of a barn. Seriously, it tastes like you're tonguing like I don't know, like a
So it
shed
tastes like
or
you're
a barn
tonguing
floor.
what?
A barn.
The
Like
floor
you
of
know,
a barn.
animals. A floor of a
know
barn.
why you
I thought you
Seriously.
said a bum.
Direct.
And I was like,
The floor of a bum.
Is this
Where
where
are
we're
you
going?
looking
It's
at?
Whoa,
that bad.
whoa.
Like, it's like
The floor
10 out
of your
10,
bum.
and then suddenly falls off a cliff, and you're like, ugh. So I don't know.
Okay,
awful.
a bum.
Not just your bum, but the
Barn.
floor of your bum.
Look, both of them work.
Yep, fair. All right, well, good to know that you
And,
could taste it. Maybe just
Fresh?
spit it out.
Fresh, what do you got?
I had the Matzo's ginger beer. Just pretty,
Ooh,
very
classic.
good. Like classic, standard, refreshing. Had it with some ice. It was good.
Tried and tasted.
Definitely better than the
It's
floor of
from
a bum.
Brew.
That's for sure. But yeah, thanks so much for coming, guys. Social skills. It's been a fun podcast. A little bit different to the topics we've done before, but
Yeah,
I
it
liked
was a bit.
it was
I
a
feel
lot
like
to
there was-
talk
It was
about. though.
less. Yeah, I feel like it was kind of cool. It was like less information based
Yeah,
and
yeah.
more like experience based,
Experience,
which I
yeah,
really
yeah.
liked.
Which
yeah.
is cool.
Hmm.
All right, well,
Awesome.
we'll see you
Well,
all.
yeah,
soon.
thank you everybody.
Oh, we
for
should
coming.
probably like say
shout-outs.
goodbye, yeah, and shout out. So,
Yeah, sorry.
Louis,
So,
you're up. Louis first.
Oh, guys, just Lewis Collective pretty much on everything except for Twitch. Yeah, just post works of my graphic design and memes. Get around it.
Sweet.
Nice, love a meme. Kat?
Spicy. Oh, we're going cat next.
Shout out to my mum for making me.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Second.
What a
shout
lad.
out to
Spicy?
Cat's mum.
Yeah, SpicyMayoh on Twitch and everywhere else. But yeah, cool.
What are you
Yeah.
streaming at the moment, Spicy?
At the moment, I am trying to get Red Dead Redemption, but it's not working.
yeah,
So
yeah.
probably Apex. I love battle royales. I love like going around shooting stuff.
Yeah,
I like
for
like
Nice.
strategical and action games. So
Not
hit me
Realm
up.
anymore?
No, it's not fun enough. Like
Yeah.
there's no challenge in it.
Many
There's only
bots.
like 8 people that actually play it. So
Yeah.
not anymore.
I've Red Dead's crashing for heaps of people. the
Yeah,
online
heaps of people say
version,
it's
I've actually
crashing.
seen.
It irritates me.
Yeah, that's
not good.
nice.
Fly.
I don't know. Shout out to Fresh for inviting me. He's cute.
No social
Fresh with the
media
double
fly.
shout out. Fresh.
Guys, follow my YouTube now. Fresh Plays Live. I'm going to start doing some YouTube streams. Jumping
On
on
Mondays, was it?
going over behind Courage Shader. Yeah, I think Mondays I'll start doing YouTube streams. So
Nice.
exclamation
Nice.
mark YouTube or Fresh Plays Live on YouTube. You can find it there.
Very
Sick.
nice.
And I'm Mr. Woke TV on everything. And yeah, definitely hit me up. Tune in for a stream.
I like
And yeah, I'm getting a stream schedule from next week.
Lovely.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, very cool. I'm very
Nice,
excited.
Gary.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you very much for tuning in, and
Very much.
we'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.